1. Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Serenial podcast, episode 13. To my left, we have Mega Harv. Say what's up, Harv.
Hey, what's up, Harv?
And right below me, we have Nawara. How's it going?
Pretty good. Another exciting Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what you guys been up to lately?
Oh, I've just been, so far, I just finished getting the Platinum Trophy on the PS3 version of Nier. Now I've done Nier Replicant and PS3 Nier, and I never want to do that again. Don't get me wrong, great game, but to get the Platinum Trophy in it twice, you have to get so many RNG drops, and it's really mind-numbing. But it's
for parts, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a pleasant experience, though. It was tolerable. But to do it again, no. Never again. If I ever play it again, it's just to enjoy the story, and it'll be great. But that's what I've been up to.
I've been going through Resident Evil 8, aka Village, myself. And also been PlayStation Plus just launched Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate, so fighting games are kind of my thing. So hot on the heels of finally getting gold rank on Street Fighter 5. Now it's okay, I want to try this one out too.
Oh, nice. That's what's up. Yeah, I added into my library the new PlayStation Plus games. I haven't tried them out yet. I don't think I've ever played a virtual fighter game yet. That's one of the. I'm not really that into fighting games, but I've played Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, the usual ones. I gotta try that one and download it to my console still.
I've played Virtua Fighter 2. That was the only one I ever played. Maybe a little bit of 4, just at someone's house, but I spent most of my time with 2. So my friend had it on PC.
Yeah, I think I spent the most time with 4 because I lived in Japan around the time it was new, and so that was the big arcade thing then. So I was in actual Akihabara having people take my 100 yen coins from me, and it's okay, I'm gonna go back to Street Fighter for a bit.
Oh yeah, that's one of the fighting games that they have in the arcades, don't they?
Yeah,
it reminds me of playing freaking Street Fighter, freaking on the arcade with the sticks, getting freaking killed by the freaking computer all the time.
But you should also get Squadrons as well, because that one I fiended on when it came out and it was new. It's just a really good game. It does require a little bit of team synergy, though. So that's the other thing. Anytime you want to jump on and play Squadrons, I will be your kind of ace wingman if you want.
Oh yeah, that one is co-op, isn't it? Is it 2 players or 4, or how many players?
There's basically only 2 game modes other than the single player story. Single player story is pretty good, but a lot of people didn't play it if you look at the trophy percentages, which is sad. But the 2 game modes are basically 5-on-5 dogfights where you just use, you'd think it's all interceptors, but it's not. You use shoot each other down with your ships. Whoever gets 30 kills wins. And then the main game type is kind of like Team Fortress 2, or kind of like a Overwatch-esque, where you've got your carriers on either side of the map, your Star Destroyer, your Mon Cal cruiser, and then you have to take out the enemy light cruisers and the corvettes to the way for your bombers to start taking down the big ships. So you have a team of 5, they have a team of 5, and then they're just AI fighters who are just popcorn to move your morale attack meter across the screen. So I'm a bomber expert myself. I'd like to think, earn my wings. So you'd be taking out the fighter screen, and then I'd be doing those cheeky torpedoes against the enemy cruisers, and then I'd get out of there, and you'd take my place, and so on and so forth. But it's so imperative to be okay, friends. Even all my I got all my pals playing it. It's okay, friends, even who aren't very good. If we're mildly coordinated, we rush at the same time, we will win, even if they're all individually better than us.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
I haven't played a Star Wars game, especially a fighter, the Starfighters, in years. It reminds me of playing on the GameCube. What was it called? The
Rogue Squadron?
What was the GameCube one called? Yes, I think it was Rogue Squadron. That one was freaking great. That was one of my favorite Star Wars games ever. I think it was Rogue Squadron, or was it Jedi Starfighter?
I've never played it.
I played both of them.
If you like Rogue Squadron, you'd at least like the story mode of this. You might jump in a multiplayer and be like, this is learning curve hell. Why'd you recommend this to me? But it's worth a shot.
I like Starfighter games more. Jedi, you ever play Jedi Starfighter?
That's one
that was on the PS2 and the Xbox.
I have the remake for PS4 because it came with my like Star Wars edition PS4, but I never played that.
Oh man, wait, they made a remake? Really?
Just the thing where you buy it again on PS4 and it works on the PS4.
Okay. Yeah, I think I played it originally on the PS2. That was pretty cool. But oh man.
Yeah,
they get so many damn PlayStation. There's so many Star Wars games. I lose track sometimes. Only ones I haven't played are like Battlefront, the remakes or a reboot. Really, I heard it wasn't too good.
That was my thing back in the day. Like as a teenager, games like X-Wing and TIE Fighter came out for PC then, and so Squadrons is basically a spiritual successor of those games. So it's like really specific things like you need to dump energy from your guns and your shields to your engines to make yourself go faster and turn better. But then when the enemy engages you, you have to put the power back up to guns so that you don't run out of pew-pews and things like that. So you're constantly switching your power balance around and putting shields to double front and stuff like that to make sure it all works.
Okay.
A little more involved than Rogue Squadron, but also more satisfying once you finally get it.
Cool.
Or you play it on easy to be invincible.
Oh man, I've been streaming Mass Effect still. Like, I beat
yeah.
part 1. I'm in the middle of part 2 now.
You gotta be in the thick of 2. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, I'm like somewhere in the middle of it. I'm just disappointed with the class that I picked because I much prefer just using weapons, honestly. Because you can pick between soldier, freaking, or a biotics user or a freaking tech user. And then there's also 3 more classes which are mixes of those 3. And I'm like, the easiest way to go through combat 9 out of 10 times is to just be a soldier because they have access to every gun type there is. Okay. All the other classes have limits on what type of guns they can use. And since I just like to snipe or run in with a shotgun, it's like the most effective thing in most cases. I feel like they could have balanced the classes more, even like the originals, not even just the remasters. I feel they could have been a little more balanced, you know what I mean? You can just run in, you can just stay back, snipe everything. Works almost just as good as basically any other option you have. But I mean, I guess that's kind of the, how shooters work largely,
Well, I mean, if you have
a sniper, Vanguard class.
Yeah, I picked. Let me see. On part 2, I picked Vanguard, so I have like the biotic powers to pick from. But I'm like, I don't really need like pull and all that stuff when I can just snipe them in the head. It's like it just works so much better.
Kind of like the superhero who can like make water shoot out of a fire hydrant and like push her over the bad guys, and the other guy who's just like, I've got guns, I could just
Yeah, I got this. Let me just shoot them. Okay, as long as they're not immune to bullets. Bullets beat everything.
Yeah.
Like that's how it works.
Have you been using the same 2 teammates? I saw you had Tally and who else on your team, or have you been switching it up? No, you had Zaid actually. When I was looking last.
Zaid and freaking
that one guy.
I unlocked Zaid. I unlocked Garrus. I unlocked Morden. I still have to unlock freaking. Forgot the other dude's name. Rex. Oops. And who else is left?
Grunt.
Tally. You feed her in his first mission, but then you have to find her later on in the story. As far as part 2 goes, I still feel it's the best Mass Effect game though in the whole like series out of all 4. I heard they're making a part 4, like a Mass Effect 4, and that's what I'm waiting for.
Like an actual, Andromeda, like straight up 4.
Yeah, that's when they made the announcement for Mass Effect Legendary Edition last year, and everyone thought that it was going to be an announcement for Mass Effect 4, but it was actually an announcement for this. But also apparently Mass Effect 4 is like in the works. I'm hoping they announce it at hopefully E3 maybe. Isn't that like
that's just around the corner, isn't it? E3.
Yeah, isn't it later this month? I believe in another week or 2. I'm trying to find the exact date that it is, but I know it's somewhere in June.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll have the announcements for that.
I even hear about not that
I'm sure BioWare would be there.
Still haven't played any Mass Effects, but I definitely didn't hear anything about a 4. But it makes sense they'd release the
remastered
trilogy collection before, to spark interest.
get that hype back. Too.
Definitely. Let me see. Right here, I found it. It begins on the 12th and it ends on the 15th this year.
Okay.
So hopefully we get some pretty good announcements that haven't been announced yet.
Hope to hear
I'm still waiting for a release day for Horizon Forbidden West, for example.
Yeah.
Like some kind of release window for it.
And whatever surprises are in store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hopefully some more PlayStation 5 exclusives. I mean, Ratchet and Clank is still the only one like in this year that I'm waiting for. They gotta announce more.
And I think
but it still does play PS4 games really well, right?
Oh, the PS5 plays PS4 games like
even better, I guess.
Honestly, I haven't noticed any problems with it. They load quicker. They work pretty freaking great. Only game I had some problems with was like I don't even remember. Like that's pretty damn good, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's the quietest thing. I mostly play PS4 games on it, and if I was playing these same games on my PlayStation 4 Pro, it would have been doing the whole jet engine.
Oh, yeah.
And that noise is not good in the slightest bit, especially when you're trying to actually stream.
Yeah.
It was like, what is that noise?
Turn off your air conditioner. Stop
tell
mowing your lawn.
My PS4 is probably getting at the end of life too, because it never made that noise. But then again, I usually play these kind of low spec Japanese games. But now playing Resident Evil 8, it's given me the worrying. Then it's also a quiet game too. So, well, it's like quiet. You know how it is. So
I don't know where it pops up, and it's like you're on a freaking it's like you're at a freaking airport, just standing right outside it when it's about to take off. But it just keeps doing that for like an hour.
Yeah,
it's kind of horrendous.
Eardrums explode.
Well, the weird thing is, I feel like it does it when you're on the menus of certain games, or like when you pause in Resident Evil, look at the map. It's something to do with like the game processes as much as it can for some reason, or it unlocks the frame rate when you're on the map. So it's like, you're not stopping at 60 FPS. I better use all of the heat I can.
Right.
And so that's a programming anomaly that seems pretty common.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's just not. I feel like the games are just not optimized as well as they can be.
Yeah.
Maybe it might take more time, like develop. They need more time, like in development. Like go back to the lab, spend another like 5 or 6 months, and then come back. Maybe it'll be.
That's why we need the extra time with each console.
Right.
Then, like you were saying before, before we started.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That's perfect.
It's a good segue.
How do you guys feel about like console generations and the fact that every basically between 6 to 7 years there's a new console? Do you think that should be maybe 8, 9, or do you feel like it's just right, or maybe they should release consoles quicker?
Well, I know, like for me personally, I always hate having to buy a new console, but like just thinking about like if all the console generations were extended, like how differently the gaming landscape would be. Because, like, what would the game... Say, like, a game like Breath of the Wild, would that have been, like, on the Wii? GameCube? End of the GameCube? Like, would it have even been the same thing? Or, like, Final Fantasy VII on, like, the Super Nintendo? Would it have been able to make the same splash? But, like, we also would have just gotten other games that we just didn't get because they're, like... Because I know, like, the Mother series, they, like some of the game, like the first NES one might have been released initially if it had a little extra time, like if the NES was out a little bit longer, because then it wouldn't be like, well, Super Nintendo's in full swing. Why are we releasing these NES games? So it's like it would definitely change the whole landscape, but it's hard to say if it would actually be better.
Yeah.
It might have saved certain consoles, like the Dreamcast might have continued going, or the Saturn might have seemed worthwhile to people. Yeah, that was the crime, that the 3DX and Saturn. Like, why even do that? What are you doing?
Right.
See, I think some consoles aren't spaced out enough. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned Breath of the Wild, that did get a release on the Wii U, too.
Right.
But they only talk about it on the Switch. Like, they only talk about the Switch version.
Yeah.
And they say the Wii U version is, like, the inferior version. But, like, how many times have we seen that in video gaming? Like, the new console just released, like, a few months prior. So we're going to release one of our big games on both consoles. Right. But then 9 out of 10 times, it plays inferior on the previous console. Like, God of War is going to be out next year. It's going to be on the PS4 and the PS5. I just read recently that they delayed God of War because they want to have a simultaneous release on both consoles instead of just being PS5 only. And I'm sure that has to do with like sales and the PS5 isn't fully like accessible because of the shortage.
Right.
But think about how much more time they're doing to get it out for both platforms rather than just the PS5.
Right.
I mean, that might take them a whole another year, for example. But the PS4 is still going to not run it as good, ultimately.
Right. Not a chance.
The catch-22 of it's not going to look like a super amazing PS5 game, especially later in the PS5's life as well. It's like the Assassin's Creed games that come out across generations too. It's like got the new Assassin's Creed pirate one with Black Flag. And everybody's like, this is only slightly better than the previous gen, and they're like, yeah, that's we told you that, that's what it's going to be like that.
That one released on both too, right? Generations. Yeah, so when stuff like that, it's like, do you really want to get the unfortunately inferior version when you can just wait, or you're going to buy it twice? I mean, maybe they're banking on people buying it for both consoles anyway and increasing their sales that way, but. I mean, come on now,
Yeah.
Well, then later Ubisoft did the bizarre thing, like for the following one, where they had the previous Gen 1 and the next Gen 1 release at the same time. Remember, they had Assassin's Creed Rogue release at the same time as, what was it?
Oh, crap.
Syndicate? Unity?
No, wasn't it Rogue and Black Flag? Or was it?
I'm pretty sure Black Flag was... I can't remember anymore, but it was something like that. Yeah,
I'm looking up the years, but yeah.
Sup, Ray Unit, sup, Vile.
Yo, what's up, Vile, Ray Unit? I was like, oh, the US messed up the Saturn release with the Dreamcast not having a DVD function.
That too, yeah. Because they had they called them GD ROMs, didn't they, for the Dreamcast, if I recall?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
DVD.
I only had like 7 games on my Dreamcast, I feel like.
And you could pirate games on them so easily.
Very easily.
Why would you even... It's like, why buy the game if you're going to... Like, I just burn it on the computer and just don't even modify the Dreamcast.
The nice thing about that was because it was so easy to just get games. That was when I was living in Japan as well. And so everybody was like unloading their Dreamcast games. And like, yes, thank you. You'd get them at the $5 equivalent at the used bookstore, because that's where you sell games in Japan for some reason.
Man, I just checked. It's Unity and Rogue were the ones that released in the same year. That was 2014.
There, see, I was right in the several guesses I made.
I never played either one of those, honestly. I stopped playing Assassin's Creed at like 3. I was like, when I found out the next one was Black Flag and it was about pirates, I honestly was turned off because I don't like ships. Like, I don't want to be on water in real life. I don't want to be on water in a game either. I just have this aversion to it, I feel like. I was like, let me stick to land.
That's a pretty common thing, I think, is this I can't be underwater in games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to be on a ship.
When I played Kingdom Hearts 3, during like the Pirates of the Caribbean level where it was like go around on the ship, I was like, this is like my favorite part of the game. And I had people tell me, it's like, you should play Black Flag then. Because it's that. Like, oh, maybe I should. In that case.
I feel like 3 is where they started adding in naval combat, though. The whole naval part was just like not interesting to me. I like exploring land. Like,
fair. Yeah.
It reminds me of Legend of Zelda or Wind Waker. When I love Zelda games and I was excited as a kid, but all those parts of having to travel in that little boat on Wind Waker all around, like exploring, like getting the what was it, the Triforce pieces I think you could find, or some maps to dig here and all different islands. I was like, I don't like sea travel. Not in my personal life, not in games.
Right.
Like, let me just be on land. Give me a car or something, or a horse. Horseback was great on just stick to that, in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. That's the best thing. That's why I'm glad they brought it back for what was the one afterwards, Twilight Princess.
I imagine that was a hardware limitation too. It's easier to render, just nothing this sort of water.
Yeah.
Just water
as well.
It's nice and simple. Oh man.
For me, I really like the ship combat because I really liked that in the RPG Skies of Arcadia, which Sega really liked to talk about, but then never re-releases or anything. And I bet if the Dreamcast lasted longer, they would have made a Skies of Arcadia 2 then, but they didn't.
Oh, that would have been great. That's such an underrated game. Well, like, I don't know if it's underrated so much, it's just underappreciated, because anyone that plays it's like, this game's amazing, but it's kind of lost in the sands of time.
Now it's like, you mean that Sonic Team Racing level? What? I didn't know that was a game, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I never played. That's one of the JRPGs I never played like back then. I heard about it though. The Dreamcast was.
It'd be up your alley.
The Dreamcast missed its mark, but it had like a few games that were really just up there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like I was trying to make a top 10 list of the Sega Dreamcast, like to go along with my other ones, and I kind of got stuck at like 6. Right. I was like, I haven't played that many actually, but these 5 are like spectacular.
Right.
I was like, I haven't played any other ones. I mean, hell, it's Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, Jet Grind Radio or whatever it's called, and freaking hell, I forgot the other one now already. I feel like my time with the Dreamcast was very short, and it was just focused on like those 3 games.
Yeah, it was basically my Soul Calibur machine in Shenmue. But like, I played a lot of Soul Calibur on it.
Did you get Shenmue 3?
Pardon?
Did you get Shenmue 3?
Oh yeah, I got that day 1. I'm a big fan of Shenmue.
Yeah, I kickstarted that one as well. Not that it should have been a Kickstarter thing, but yeah.
Right, I hear you.
That just came out like a year or 2 ago, right? Or 2 years ago?
Not last November, but the November before, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, I didn't get it because I didn't play like the first 2, and I heard the first 2 were like really kind of like outdated now, so I didn't want to go play them.
Shenmue, you either love it or you hate it. Like it's kind of there's not really a lot of shades of gray with it.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of had to be there.
Yeah.
And now you just be like, unless you're being like an archaeologist of games,
right.
You kind of almost be suffering through it. Like I told you before, I went through all of the God of War games. So I started at 1, and granted I got to play the HD versions. I played the ones on I played the Vita or the PSP ones on the PS3 and so forth and so on. And so I got to feel like, okay, I'm a gaming archaeologist. I can stand the weird combat or dying to spikes more often than enemies and stuff like that until finally we get to modern God of War. Then it's like, okay, we're back in modern games again, but you can really see like where it goes from primitive game or experimental game to like, oh, now we got all the modern like quality of life things in there. It's quite the journey, but yeah, Shenmue doesn't do that.
No. But like, fingers crossed for a 4th one. I know they're supposed to be having an anime coming out, but like, I'm gonna not be happy if we only get Shenmue 3 with the way it ended.
Yeah, it's gotta make the whole other 13 games.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. Now its spiritual successor, though, Ruga Gotoko, aka Yakuza, and then its spiritual successors like Judgment. That's pretty legit.
I've been finding
that is where I jumped in at. I never played
finding my Yakuza games.
Oh, you found them?
I found a couple of them. Thanks to Vile for the Yakuza games. Yeah,
dude,
gone to get his Dominoes yet.
You got to get into them, man.
I know, because I especially need to play Like a Dragon, but I think I gotta play these ones first.
Definitely. The story does continue in a way, like the overarching story.
Like I'll get more attached to the characters and stuff.
You can play Judgment though, because it's like a spin-off.
Yeah.
So it takes place in the same area, but it's different characters. So you won't really be missing too much. I'm waiting for the sequel to Judgment still. I'm looking forward to that. Lost Judgment, I believe.
Now, would you recommend playing Yakuza in release order or chronological order, or numerical order, like 0, 1, 2, 3, or would you put 0 afterwards?
I think the order I played them in was like probably one of the best orders for people that are getting into it now, because I played Yakuza Kiwami 1, And then I think I played Yakuza Kiwami 2. And then I went to 0. Then once the remastered ones for 3, 4, and 5 came out, I played those. Then I played 6. I just have to get Like a Dragon, which I'm just really waiting because there's other games I gotta play. But Like a Dragon's next on my list. I'm gonna get that one.
I gotta try to snap that up when it's on sale.
But I've been looking at though. The story wise, it still looks like it's up to par with like the typical Yakuza stories. You know, very dramatic and all that. They go crazy with their stories sometimes.
Yeah,
tearjerker.
I wouldn't have thought of that order, but I think that's pretty good. Like for me, I played 1 and 2, albeit in Japanese, like way long ago, and then I played 0, and then I played 1, then I played 2. So when I played 0, it's like, oh, there's these characters coming back and stuff like that I had memories of, and I liked those connections. So yeah, I think playing 0 as a purposeful prequel is probably a good way to do it.
Well, 0 sets it up still where you could play it because there's all these. It takes place. What is it, like 7 years before part 1? I think.
Yeah.
There's such a gap where I mean, half the characters they introduce in 0, you don't see in part 1 anyway. So it's not like completely jarring to start with that one either. It is one of the longest ones though. Like 0 is freaking longer than 1, 2, 3. Like it's freaking long in comparison. I think that's the longest one I've played.
How long is an average Yakuza game, would you reckon?
Not too. 0 was the longest one in the series, probably. I played, I think, maybe 40, 50 hours, but the rest of them were maybe 20 something around there, that's like 30 or less.
Yeah, the heart and soul of them is really the side quests. And so can or cannot do them.
I totally would.
Yeah, so if you're doing all the side quests, it's probably 40 plus hours minimum per game. But if you just ran through the plot, it would probably be less than 10 hours if you like to speed run it.
Right.
Which means the pacing is ridiculous, but you just have to have a gamer time where it's like nothing happens until you are there to have it happen.
Right.
It's like, okay, meet me in 15 minutes, and then like three weeks later, real time. It's like, what took you so long? It's like, what? Were you tracking my game progress, or you just always say that? I don't even know.
Yeah, you could stop and do side quests for like freaking a week because there's like a freaking list of like 100 different ones to do, and some of them are just so comedic. You know what I mean? Like
in Yakuza 3, the character's friend from Okinawa is waiting for him in Tokyo. He's like, you gotta pick me up at the convenience store. And so it's like, okay, I'll meet you soon. And then you go around and it's like, oh, hey, big guy, you'd be perfect for our movie that we're shooting. It's like, okay. So like, oh, he's just going to go shoot a movie and come back. And then he comes like, oh, Aniki, where were you? It's like, oh, I've been busy. It's like, but with no real sense of how much time has passed. But that's just the way it is. It's very video gamey. Okay. And it's unabashedly so. It doesn't worry about like realism and stuff like that. In terms of like, it doesn't try to, you pick up items that have glowy boxes around because they're easy to see, right? You pause and
chairs. Oh, man.
Their health is up. And one of my favorite things is, you have your climactic battle, and in the cutscene, the bad guy falls down, and he's like, "Well, you got me good," kind of thing. And it's like, story-wise, how did we know that he was beating? He's not unconscious. He just knows he's done then because his health bar was depleted, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's just the way they do it.
I just love picking up every random object you could find and just hitting everybody with it. Like pick up a bench and you just knock down like freaking 10 people. I freaking love it. That's like the best part of the combat. It's so brutal. Like when you got hit with a bench in real life, I don't think you're gonna get back up and still fight.
No.
You kind of have to stay down and go to the hospital.
Or the heat action where you throw the bench at the guy, he like catches it, or he pushes it out of the way, and then your guy comes and he follows up with the bench.
The fighting is so brutal. Like it's freaking. They're like bleeding out of their eyes, like their nose, their mouth, and then like after that, it's just like, well, they're like, you beat me, okay. It's like,
all right, man.
It's like, shouldn't you be in the hospital or not unconscious? That was pretty hard.
Like, nah, I'm good.
It's like, nah, I'm good. I'm all right. Do this every week.
Now, what I am playing in order, and I was telling you this about before, is a game that didn't get translated. So between Yakuza 2 and 3 was a game called Ryuga Gotoku Kenzan, or Like a Dragon Begins, or Behold. There's not a good translation for it, but basically it takes the Yakuza characters, and it's not their ancestors, it's just like as if the actors were playing like a feudal Japan version of themselves.
Okay.
So instead of Kiryu Kazuma, they're Kiryu Kazumanosuke, and he's like a wandering warrior kind of thing who does odd jobs, just so happens to be their like side quests and stuff like that. And so, it's the same kind of zany antics for half the time. And then I'm really glad that I played that, because there's this bit that they introduced in that game where Kiryu will see like a flying squirrel or something, and he'll get out his ink kit and his scroll, and he'll like make a picture and then write a haiku, and he'll learn like flying squirrel techniques. So when he gets knocked down, he can get up back up again in a second. Because in Yakuza 3, they introduced a thing where there's somebody doing a crazy thing on, like there's a guy carrying a bunch of noodles and stuff on his scooter, but it's got like 2 armfuls of them, and he hits a street lamp or something, and he flies through the air.
Yeah.
And you have to like
I forgot
take
that
photos of them. And then you have to write a really good blog post of it instead of a haiku. And then if you get the right blog post, then you learn the technique based on that. So seeing that go from the feudal samurai game to the modern game where camera phones are new, was just kind of this amazing. Like, I'm so glad that I'm one of the very few people who's actually played this Japanese
I want
game.
to play that one. I wish they released it in English.
Recommend it.
When you tell me that, it makes me think about how, like, with River City Ransom, there was River City Ransom historical drama. And, like, it's just funny that they have... That's just something they'll do in Japan. Be like, yeah, here's these characters that you know from, like, modern games, but it's not their ancestors, it's just them in the past. Just living their life in the past.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Crazy.
It's just like that, yeah. And it's a PS3 game, so it's region free. So you can just buy it off eBay, and you can just play it. And whereas the older games I'd have to use GameFAQs, because it was before Web 2.0, this one I could just play a YouTube video, because there's a website, KHH subs, that have just made all the cutscenes. And so I'd just be like, and play the cutscene, and it would just play on my laptop as it's on my TV there. Of course, you mute the laptop, and it just shows you the subtitles in real time. It's basically...
So you don't even need to know Japanese?
No. A few times I cheated with like Google whatever to pick up some characters in that. And it helps knowing like height and janai just for menu options. But other than that, yeah, you can basically get away with it. You didn't know any Japanese at all. The menus are a bit tricky. You'd have to spend more time like looking at the menu guides and stuff. But it's kind of an experience playing a game you're illiterate in as well.
Interesting. I've done that with Earthbound before. Like, I don't know Japanese, but I played through the Japanese version. Just because I'm like, okay, I know this present is this item. And I know it's in this part of my inventory, so I just would do stuff like that to try to keep track of everything. It is interesting.
Yeah, same sort of thing. It's like
just if you
playing something you're not supposed to be able to play as well.
Right. And then I got to, I don't know how familiar you are with Earthbound, but like then I got to the monkey cave. Like, that was the worst part. Because it's like, all you do in the monkey cave is you're like, a monkey will be like, I want a banana, give me one. So you'll like give them one in your inventory. Then you'll go to another monkey and it's like, I want a pizza. So you have to be like, okay, I picked up this thing. I have to notice that this monkey is also asking for this thing. So like, here it is. And I'm like drawing a map to make sure that I'm like in the right spot and stuff. At one point I ended up throwing away one of the items I needed, but I just so happened to like leave the dungeon and like one of the stores out there just happened to be selling what I needed, so it worked out.
That sounds
freaking luck, yo.
It was a mess, but that was the hardest part for sure. It was a fun challenge though.
At all. Yeah, like that's it. Even like when I was playing a few games like Final Fantasy Tactics, I very quickly learned things like item and options and potions or some of the harder ones like ninja and things like that. All the important dialogue you need for everyday conversation in Japanese.
Right, of course.
Sometimes I'll ask folks like, so, do you know about hamedo? It's like, what? No, you know, when you stop a sword with your bare hands, right? That's everybody knows that word.
In Japan, yeah.
That's just how you say hello, really.
Right.
Like if you're not good friends unless that happens.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm hoping that they actually. I doubt it, but if there's like what, maybe 2 or 3 now spin-offs for Yakuza that haven't been translated, I think.
There's 2. There's Kenzan, so Behold, and Ishin as well, which happens later in time. Which I do own that game. Again, it's a PS4 game, so it's region free and stuff like that. I'm going to play that in chronological release order as well. I've watched the Majima Karaoke videos so many times for that. I can't wait to actually play through it, because in Yakuza, similar to Shenmue, you do, activities. In Shenmue, you go to the arcade and you play Ridge Racer or whatever.
Right.
So in Yakuza, you do all sorts of things as well that aren't really game specific. So, but in the feudal era ones, you're at like a Knoll theater or whatever, and so this kind of longtime rival villain with an eye patch. He has like some fans, and he's kind of dancing around as they do kind of like the shamisen instead of like the electric guitar and stuff like that. So it's just such a kind of fan service to the max type thing. But it does break my heart that there's not going to be an English version of it. I waited and waited, but I just gave up, and I got to play it.
I would be surprised, but you never know.
True. They should get a release for it, I mean, that'd be freaking nice. Like, all these games that come from Japan and the spin-offs don't get released in the United States, and then you're kind of just like, well, I'm missing some part of it, even if it's a small part. Right. There's certain things that you're just going to miss out on, like even what's the other series? The Legend of Heroes. That's the series I know the best that's done that. There's 2 games that haven't been released in the West. They haven't got an English translation yet, except for maybe a fan translation or something like that, but no official one yet. And they're actually integral to the overall story of the game. And I'm like, well, can you give us those 2 games in English? You gave us every single other one. I mean, I can't imagine that there's not a fan base. There has to be a market for those 2 as well. It just sometimes comes down to, well, it's like, it's Trails from Zero and freaking Trails to Azure. Those 2 don't have an English release, but the other freaking 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 games now all do. So, if you're gonna make them integral to the part, you're gonna bring characters from it back into the other games, and you're gonna reference all the stuff that happened there. Give us those games too. They've kind of hinted at maybe releasing them in English, but they're still working on new games also. So I'm like, at what point will they have time to? I still haven't played the Legend of Hero Trails of Cold Steel 4 came out last year. I still haven't played it yet because apparently all the other games, this is where they all become so relevant to the plot. Everything comes together, all the old characters from every other game and all the events. And I'm like, well, I still gotta play freaking Azure and freaking Trails from Zero and Trails in the Sky the Third. And I'm like, I'm gonna be missing all these characters. It's so much more rewarding when you get that, when you actually get the reference that they're throwing in. Oh, that's from
that's who this is, or that's the guy I fought this point and stuff like that, right?
Otherwise, you just completely miss on what it was. Oh, it's not as big a surprise to you, I guess you could say.
Yeah. It's it was me. Who?
Yeah.
People are unaware. Oh, that doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean as much. You know what I mean? It doesn't hold the impact that it should. So I'm missing out on stuff like that. But Yakuza is the other series I could think of where kind of missing a game or 2. Even though the spin-offs, though, at least they're not.
Yeah, at least they're in an alternate thing. It is nice though that we got Yakuza Dead Souls, though. The zombie one back when The Walking Dead came out and everything was zombies.
Right.
Then so there's it came out after Yakuza 3, and it's basically the same thing as a what if universe where it's what if there's a zombie outbreak during the game? So again, a hilarious premise. Apparently not very good, but doesn't matter. We got it, and they made it for us. So good to appreciate it.
Yep.
would play that one if they put it like I already sold my PS3. If they would just put it on PS4 or PS5, like I'll go pick it up and play it because I've liked every Yakuza game I've played so far, pretty much, you know. And if it has like, similar combat and stuff like that, then I definitely pretty freaking sure I would enjoy this one too. Have you played Dead Souls?
That's the one I'm holding on to my PS3 for, so that I can eventually just put that disc in. So I had Kenzan, that's check, and Dead Souls, and then I'll be almost done with my PS3 after that.
Oh man, some of these PS3 games I feel like I missed out on because I was a late adopter of the PS3. They got it like 5 years, I think. When did it release? 2006. I bought mine in like 2011.
Yeah, mine was even after that. I have the one that has the slidey top.
Oh wait, is that the Super Slim or the Slim?
Yeah.
Or the...
I think it's called the Super Slim. Yeah.
I had the regular Slim model, so it wasn't like I guess as slim. I don't know why they have a Slim and then the Super Slim.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
Oh man, the PS3 it was good. I really miss it.
Yeah, I missed out on it. I didn't get my PS3 until like I don't know 3 years ago.
Oh man,
I wasn't playing games really at the time. Like I was busy doing other things, but I had my 360. There's a few games for it I played. It was mostly my Guitar Hero phase when I was playing games at the time. But then I just missed out on the PS3. But I have it now, and I've been playing the odd game on it. And I like how there's PS1 games that you can just download onto it. Because I'm like, I'll just buy a PS3 and get Suikoden 2, which will be cheaper than just getting a disc of Suikoden 2.
Yeah, seriously. Some of those older games are freaking hard to actually get a disc on, especially like PS1, 2, and 3 in particular. Because you can't just go download them from the store half the time, really.
Right.
Yeah, I got God Hand on the PS3, even though I had the Japanese PS2 one, but I could finally play it in English. Now, or at least English menus. That's one of the nice ones where the audio was always all in English. The similar to Resident Evil and Devil May Cry, it was always meant to be an English voiced game, sounds like a Hollywood game, I guess, for Japanese audience. They just want to hear the foreigners say some things and then have the translation in there, so I could like follow along the story just fine. But then the menus I kind of struggle with, and that was the big challenge, not the actual fighting. After a while.
God Hand. I don't think I ever played God Hand. That rings a bell, though. I
might have mentioned it before. God Hand, if you really love Devil May Cry, it's by the same people who would have made Devil May Cry. Clover made Okami and God Hand and Beautiful Joe.
Oh,
so
no way. Okay.
So they were like the progenitors of the stylish action genre. And so God Hand is super, super hard. But it's super rewarding, and you can basically play it perfectly. Like, it's one of those things where the enemy is going to punch you, and so you flick the right stick, and your guy will dodge in like 4 frames, and then you do a counterattack based on that. So you're like combo, dodge, combo, and you can customize your combo to be like drunken kung fu, or like, do like a tornado kick, or like do a concho to their butt or whatever, and it just kind of gets more zany until you power up more and more.
Oh man, that game sounds wild. It sounds kind of like Yakuza in a way, like with the freaking like the wackiness and the different fighting styles and whatnot. Yeah, if that's the case, and it seems like it'd be pretty good. Yeah,
this one's pretty story light. It's kind of more all fighting all the time. It's just like here's some big demons, but even them, and that's an example of a PS2 game that I think was within the later end of the PS2. It came out 2006, kind of thing. And just like how I think the PS3 does count as a console that did kind of extend past its lifetime, because I think The Last of Us bought the PS3 a few extra years, and we did have some really good, interesting games come out at the very end of that as well. So we saw some of these, just not with Sega.
No.
And
like even like PS4 era seemed to go. It's been out like what, 7 years now?
PS4 has been out since November 2013, so almost 8 whole years now.
Yeah.
I think the PS2 is the longest running, it's not like the longest running console that they still released games for, technically.
Yeah, but is that like a Brazilian soccer game or something that they're releasing They really count.
Because I feel like a lot of other consoles they kind of just discontinued quicker. Like the Wii U,
Nintendo's like the worst for that. They'll release a new console, and then like 2 months later, the NES is an exception, but like pretty much any other console, they're like, oh, we're gonna immediately stop making games for it now that there's this new system.
Yeah, like the Wii U was discontinued in like 5 years. The PS2 was discontinued after like 13. Like the PS4 was out basically, and they finally stopped making their very last game, and it was like I think some like sports game or something like that because they have the yearly like releases.
Right.
But I mean, Nintendo consoles, I feel like they do get discontinued like quicker. You know what I mean?
That's true. I was like, I'll just my 3DS for a bit longer, and it's like, I guess I won't because there's nothing else for it.
Right.
Yeah. They stopped making 3DS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, Wii.
But yeah, Wii U is the most crushing.
That was pretty quick.
Oh, they couldn't wait to be like, all right, next console. Because the Wii U just, it flopped. It was for Nintendo,
I don't know why.
It flopped.
Yeah.
It was the first in the 8th generation video game console with the Xbox One and PS4, but did it really compete with them? You know what I mean?
Not.
Yeah, that's a bizarre thing. I feel like it's not a next gen console. Like even on Reddit or whatever, when it's like, well, this in this generation, it's like it's not really. It's an equal to the Xbox 360 and the PS3 in most ways.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre comparison, but yeah, Nintendo was doing that risky thing where they try to do it kind of early, but it didn't do anything next gen ish enough. They thought that just having the tablet would be enough, I guess, but then like even the other day, I was like, oh, I'll plug this in my room now, but like the distance is not good on it. You can't just take it anywhere in your house. You can't even have the base in another room. I forgot how very, very limited it was because I mostly just played on the TV with the Pro Controller.
Right.
Isn't Nintendo the first like freaking company that made like 2 whole different consoles in one generation? Because the Switch is still counted as Generation 8.
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah.
Like, I don't think any other companies like have done that. They've released like slim models or whatever, but they never released like a whole new console. I think that was like that was something really new, honestly. Like, I wonder what they're going to do now because Nintendo's like in the middle of, they kind of disrupted the typical console generation like ecosystem. That PlayStation was doing, and Microsoft, jumped in and did now too, and it's just like, well, what are you doing, Nintendo? They're like frontiers when it comes to gaming, and they're pioneers, I guess you could say rather. But this isn't.
I think the Switch is doing just fine. They don't really unless they're gonna make like a more powerful Switch. I don't know if they even really need a new console.
They're doing that. They've been rumored for like over a year. They've had rumors of releasing like a Switch Pro, and the rumors are just becoming more and more frequent. Where I feel like it might actually be the case now.
But if it's not backwards compatible, that'll be just so like get out of here with that, Nintendo.
Oh, if it's not backwards compatible, they just I don't know. I hope it is.
It's gotta be.
The Switch is so nice, but it lacks a lot of like games, like really AAA games.
Like
I feel
of their own, yeah. It's just the portable nature of it is like the huge selling point. It's like, oh, I can play Final Fantasy on the go. Awesome. I can play Skyrim, Doom, like just all kinds of stuff.
For the original models suck. It really does.
Well, I think that's the thing that's happened is because they've replaced the 3DS, which was kind of on its own cycle, and there was nothing else to compete with because the Vita was basically finished. They were like, we're going to do our own generation on our own time. So you could say that the Wii U and the Switch were kind of shared generations, or you could say that the Wii U was the final true console, and then this is the legacy of the 3DS going forward. It just so happens you can play it on your TV.
Right.
I mean, Nintendo did say they don't. When the Switch was releasing, they said like, oh, we're not releasing this to replace the 3DS.
Yeah, whatever.
And then like I never saw anyone play the 3DS again. Like it was just
gotcha.
Just like how the DS wasn't supposed to replace the Game Boy Advance.
Gotcha.
They did. It's like I've been tricked.
Yeah.
I haven't picked up my 3DS and played it in like what 2 years now, almost 3 years.
Yeah,
they don't release games for it anymore. And I was a late adapter to the 3DS too, honestly. So I bought a 3DS after it had already been out for like 3 years. So I was backed up on games, I feel like. But since Nintendo games like notoriously never go on sale,
right?
Half the games that I wanted to get, I was just like, well, they're years old at this point. I don't want to pay full price for them anymore, Nintendo. So I kind of just bought like half a dozen 3DS games that I definitely wanted. And then I said, well, if the rest ever go on sale, I'll get them. But then the Switch came out, and it's like, well, 3DS games are just like, where do you find them at now? Like,
narrator. And they didn't.
They need to have a wholesale for 3DS games. I'd pick some up. And the battery life on that sucks too, honestly. The 3DS battery life isn't good. The Switch battery life isn't good. That's why it's hard to just take them out and play with them. The Vita has the best battery life of any handheld console I've ever had in my life. The Vita, like, just survives. Like, my Switch would die on me before I'm even ready to, like, put it down. I mean, maybe I just play games a lot, but, if I'm going on a plane ride,
right,
the Switch should be dead by the time I get off the plane. I'm like, I think it should last at least that long,
Yeah.
So I can get home and charge it.
But the 3DS, oh yeah. So I get at least on a plane though, you usually should have like a regular old power adapter that you can put the cord into. You just have to, your Switch carrying case has to be this big to have the power adapter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As well, not convenient. If you have like big '90s jeans where like the pocket's the entire leg, maybe you could do that. But,
oh man, Ray Unit says Chaos Legion for PS2 was very good. Chaos Legion, that name rings a bell. I don't know if I played it though. There was There was 2 games of the PS2 that started with Chaos that I remember, and one of them I played and one of them I didn't. I don't know if it was Chaos Legion or the other Chaos.
Not sure.
Damn. I would have to look it up. You played Chaos Legion before?
I haven't. I've definitely heard the name though.
I forgot which one I freaking played. Chaos something.
Might be worth a cursory Google search. Chaos.
Oh wait, this one I had to look at the images. Okay, yeah, I think this is the one I played.
That's
actually,
definitely not what I was envisioning.
I think I rented it one day when I was like freaking. I think I rented it for like a week and played it. It was pretty decent. Yeah, that was one of those like kind of looked like the very first Devil May Cry game. Kind of similar style of that. Yeah, it's a pretty good game for the PS2. The PS2 is the JRPG freaking king. Like, what tops it besides like the PlayStation 1?
I was gonna say like PS1, but like other than that, I agree.
It's like PlayStation just tops themselves basically when it comes to RPGs or JRPGs, really.
Well, like they could just make them so much longer and flesh everything out more so than on like a cartridge-based system.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's a good point too.
Then the 64 came out, and they're like, we're just not gonna release RPGs on this at all. There's gonna be like 7.
Yeah, yeah. The N64 had mostly platformers, I feel like.
Platformers, just like not RPGs. They just
platformers and rail shooters like Star Fox and whatnot.
Yeah.
I guess they were too. Yeah, I guess they were.
But just it wasn't an RPG machine. Paper Mario, Quest, Aiden. I hated Aiden Chronicles.
Oh yeah, Paper Mario. Yeah.
I guess because they figured, well, we want to do a lot of 3D stuff, and RPGs couldn't possibly be 3D.
Right.
And then they didn't have the CD capacity to do things like, the pseudo photorealistic stuff or the big cutscenes and things. So, and then maybe that's what did it.
But the good thing is they still found their niche. Like
still a good.
They didn't like dive bomb and fail with the N64. They kind of did pretty dang good still. Between Mario, Donkey Kong, Banjo-Kazooie,
love Banjo-Kazooie.
Star Fox. Oh man, like they kind of had platformers.
And Star Fox for that. I played so much Star Fox 64 over and over and over.
Like, yeah, I used to just play that game like repetitively. Like every freaking week, I feel like I would go and beat it again just because. Oh, it's time to pop in Star Fox. Oh, and Bomberman. I keep forgetting. Freaking N64 had Bomberman Hero, I think, or something like that.
I barely ever played any Bomberman. Welcome back, Vile.
Really? Oh, hey back, Vile. Really, Bomberman is.
Yeah,
it's a
really.
Ooh man, Bomberman here. I think it's Bomberman Heroes for the 64, and then Bomberman Generation was for the GameCube. I played that one. That was good too. Yeah,
playing Bomberman as a mostly multiplayer game or as a single player?
I played it mostly single player, honestly, but I like the ones where you really explore. Once they got past the like the first few where it was just like the arcade style.
Yeah.
I like the platforming ones where you're like traveling around the freaking map and like freaking blowing up stuff and fighting like the different bosses. They all look like freaking Power Rangers and whatnot. With the freaking helmets. I was like,
Sentai.
Oh man,
yeah.
It's so like I don't even know what to call it. It's like freaking wacky and zany and like kind of like Yakuza way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just kind of like
Japanese charm.
Yes. Oh my god, it's freaking great. That's another series I feel like they stopped. Like, when is the last Bomberman?
I was gonna say, when was even the last Bomberman game? I have no idea.
I gotta Google that. I feel like they stopped on the Wii. Oh no, they did have one for PS4. I think I have to look.
There's one that came out for the Switch. I know that because when the Switch came out, there was a place in Mississauga called Akiba Kisa, which is closed, R.I.P. But it was like an anime manga type cafe, and they had a big old theater. It was a converted auto mechanic garage type place, but you could, get together with, and we could just, play Bomberman with, some strangers and like these theater seats. It was beautiful. But all the proprietors' friends came in without paying because they're like, hey man, high five. And it's like, are you gonna pay the cover? Okay. And then they went under, and that's it. So that's what Bomberman reminds me of.
Super Bomberman R, that was the one for the Switch.
Oh.
For kid. Okay. That was like basically the last one, and then they kind of like put it on PS4 also and like Xbox. That's the last one. That was 2017. But like, and then they added I think like an online version or something like that to play online, and then freaking besides that it was years beforehand.
Yeah, Bomberman's having trouble with
series just go like that.
Because there was the Xbox 360 one that was in the era of like gritty remakes, and it was like Bomberman. And
yeah,
I have a vague memory of this.
Is that really Bomberman? It's like a man who bombs, that kind of feel to it.
Yeah, wasn't he like kind of adult? Like it didn't look
Bomberman.
like the typical.
Yeah, no. It was like a gritty action hero. Back when all Xbox 360 games, people made fun of them for being all brown.
Yeah.
This was another brown and bloom game. Like so gritty, so much grit.
It performed like horribly. It kind of just like freaking tanked. But that was Bomberman
Act Zero. For
yeah, Bomberman was always like freaking cute and colorful and even though you're playing with bombs, literally, like, but the characters were like so freaking kind of
cartoon bombs,
charming in their own way.
The bowling ball candle bombs.
I saw on Larry Bundy's game, what's it called? Game Facts, where Bomberman has a different name in the United Kingdom because they didn't want it to be associated with the Irish Republican Army bombings that were going on. Like a little too much of this. So he's like Happy Water Balloon Pete or something across the pond instead, just so people aren't afraid of it.
Man, the hell that reminds me of just the censorship and whatnot that they have for so many different countries when it comes to gaming. Like, look how, or some of the things they just do when they release a game in a different region. Like, remember Nier? Mm-hmm. Like, for some reason, the West, we get like the older character that's like 40 years old.
Yeah.
And like in Japan, they get like this like 18-year-old guy. Like, did they think we don't know how to be young? Like, it just made no sense.
Really bizarre change.
I was like, what is it about like the West that we're just like, yeah, all our characters have to be older and like they can't be young and like high schoolers, because that's Japan's thing out of their RPGs. Is like, yeah, we're all just like 17-year-old and saving the world.
Yeah,
all the time.
But yeah, like Persona, we balance high school and we also kill like a demon too.
Right.
It's like you would never see that like in Call of Duty. Like they have to be like gritty, like hardened veterans. I've been
retired war vet.
It's like,
you haven't seen what I've seen.
Yeah, it's like, oh my
God. In Japan, you're playing a 19-year-old character. They're like, grizzled war vet.
Yeah, like the 20-year-old to be like the guy with like a scar and like a huge sword.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what I've seen. It's been 5 years of nonstop war. It's like, you barely got out of high school.
Yeah, you can't buy alcohol. Like, what do you mean?
Well, the grizzled character in your JRPG would have a lot more mascara and things like that. I think that's how you
remember. Final Fantasy X. What was the guy's name? The one. Oh crap! What was his name? The one that was friends with Cloud's father. I'm not Cloud. Titus's father. Orin. Yeah. Remember? Yeah. Orin is not even. He looks older, but Orin is only like 30. Yeah. But you would think he's like 50 years old or something. Right. Like not even that much older than them. But he's like the older uncle, and I'm like, dude. I'm almost 30. What the hell?
Yeah.
He's only 35.
If I could be half
as cool, it's just like,
I know, right?
It's shonen. Oji-san. So you're one day.
You go directly from being like a high schooler that's like this devil fighting like magician to being like the instant grizzled vet. There's like no in between.
Like this right away.
It's just a jump, like they do in shonen anime. It's just a time skip. And like, what happened in that time skip? Don't worry about it. I learned a lot though, and
we'll do a series maybe someday. Forget it.
Maybe a spinoff. You get like one flashback episode, like a training montage.
Yeah.
Oh man, hell, Japan loves time skips too. When you think about it, I feel like it's another one of their like typical tropes in their JRPGs or their anime too. There has to be some kind of time skip,
like in Nier, for example, when they move things ahead. Yeah.
That was funny when it's like because with Nier Replicant, it's like, okay, time skip. The young boy like grows up and then he's like an adult. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But then it's like with Papa Nier, there's a time skip and he's like, I'm wearing an eye patch now, just because we have to distinguish between time skip Papa Nier somehow.
Yeah, I was surprised for I haven't played the remake for Nier, but I saw that they released two different action figures of Brother Nier, because I'll just have to show you. Now I'm collecting all of the Bring Arts figures there.
Oh, nice.
But I was like, why are there? Oh, I guess there was a time skip. Oh yeah, but Papa Nier just looks like ever so slightly different. I guess to be fair, when you're an Oji-san, when 5 or 10 or 15 years pass, you're nothing really changes for you.
I mean, he was already white-haired old fella anyway, so like, what do you do to him?
Yeah.
Make his hair more white? Yeah. Like, you gotta do something.
Yeah, take an eye out.
He gets scars on his body. It's the guy's only way to differentiate.
You're talking about the censorship thing. Now, it's interesting the other way around too, though, because there's very specific things you can and can't do. I know, like in Resident Evil or in Yakuza. So in Japan, you can't show limbs being cut off. You can't show like a head being cut off. Like you can't cut a guy's head off with a sword, I think is probably how the rule says it, which I'm guessing was some like old school censorship for TV or movies where, violence was with swords or what have you. So in Resident Evil 4, I had the Japanese version, when the chainsaw guy chainsaws Leon, it stops about here, Leon falls over, you are dead, and that's it. Whereas in the American version, apparently his head's right off.
Yeah.
And all that. Or in Yakuza, there's a cutscene I just saw, Yakuza 3, I'm playing through that now, where it's like, we've got this guy, and they show the box, like, from behind, and everybody, like, looks horrified, but there's no shot for the viewer of the decapitated head in the box then, because you're not allowed to show a decapitated head like that in Japanese media, even if it's an M-rated game or a Zero Z game. That's just a no-no.
Interesting.
Yeah, the different countries and their cultures, it's like you get to see it when you're like a video game, or especially and you play like different like games from different kind of regions, and you see the really different takes they have on things. Like if Nier was made here instead, there wouldn't have been a version where, okay, let's redo the game, but take this character and make him older, younger. Right. It would have just been all right, this dude's like some 30-something-year-old, and he's just that's it. I don't think they would have went through the trouble of doing that.
He'd probably be like a charismatic hero. He's like, hey, ladies, don't worry. I'm just going to get my daughter, but I'm a single dad. So, and then, and
he'd be like Nathan Drake.
Yeah. You excuse him from just murdering all the guys, and he'd just be like, winning smile kind of thing.
Yeah, it's freaking hell. I don't freaking what's the other character called? What's the guy named from The Last of Us? I forgot.
Joel?
Yes, he'd be like a Joel or a Nathan Drake, where it's like, rugged, slightly older man, but he still kicks ass and he kills everything in his way. And then there's a time skip. He's slightly older, but he's still kicking ass and taking names. Like, all right. And he has to save his family.
It'd be interesting to directly compare The Last of Us and Nier Replicant, or Nier Gestalt, I guess, because the father saving daughter or daughter adjacent, kind of sort of the same, but not really.
It's like a different kind of. I haven't played Nier yet. I gotta play Nier still, but just in that, I kind of see it. But also, it's like the movie Taken. It's like with what's his name, Liam Neeson. He's a grizzled war veteran or whatever he was in, like with a special set of skills. It's like
we'll find
that's always gonna be the case. He's saving his daughter, and another movie saving his mother or wife from. I'm like, it's so cliche. We all have our own.
Is in Last of Us, Joel and Ellie are always together, whereas the daughter character is more of a MacGuffin in Nier Gestalt, and he meets other people that help him as a person instead. But it's kind of similar, but it's a very different dynamic, I would imagine, in Replicant, the brother Nier versus Papa Nier with Kaine and things like that.
Yeah, it is. Like, there's a little different. It's pretty well like the same, but like they interact a little differently. Like maybe it is just the Western in me, but I kind of the father-daughter, like the father protecting his daughter rather than the brother protecting his sister, just kind of makes more sense to me.
Yeah, it does. Like.
But that could just be.
I mean, I still played the damn team, but
did they really have to make a whole other game for that?
The remastered version, who do you play as? Which one is it that they just released? You play as his brother, right? Or the father?
Yeah, there's only the brother version, right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's the one I'm going to be playing as then.
Play. Whereas the one I played was Nier Gestalt, which is the Papa Nier.
Right.
One. Back before it was cool to play Nier.
Right. Well, like, I didn't even, like, the whole Nier thing, because someone was like, oh, you should try Nier Automata. I'm like, okay, sure. Eventually they sent it to me. So I was playing it and I'm like, okay, this is good, whatever. And then it got like to a certain point in the game and I was like, holy crap, this is insane. And like I got really into it, and then I was told, like, this is part of the Drakengard series. I'm like, get out of here, Drakengard. What do you mean?
Yeah, that was crazy to me.
Because I played Drakengard 1 back in the day and I'm like, no thanks.
Oh, really? You didn't like it?
No.
I think it was pretty decent for a PS2 game. I think it was really kind of weird.
I found it was like a Dynasty Warriors-like game, and they're not my cup of tea.
Ah, okay. So, then that'll explain it then.
Yeah. So it's like Dynasty Warriors with dragons.
I mean, some of the endings, I only played Drakengard 1. I don't know if I played 2, I might have, but I never played part 3, I know that much. So I don't know the whole, like, freaking story of everything yet.
I just know if they called Nier Automata Drakengard 5, I would have been like, I will not play that.
That's probably why. They probably just rebranded it, to see if they can, do something better with their sales and whatnot and the reception of the game.
But, like, I didn't even... Like, Nier came out when I wasn't even playing games, so that just totally whistled right by me.
Oh, man. It came out for PS3, right? Or was it Xbox 360 also?
In Japan, I think it was the 360 version was Gestalt, and the PS3 version was Replicant in Japan. But then when it came here, it was just the Father Nier.
Yeah.
How I missed out on Nier though, because I had a PS3 and an Xbox 360, so it just like went right under my radar. And then Automata or whatever came out, and I played the demo. But I kind of want to play Nier first before I go play full.
I would recommend it. Like, you would get a bit more out of Automata that way, I think. Because I know there's stuff I just didn't get that after the fact I did get. Like, I watched, like, a retrospective of, like, the whole series. So, like, I saw through Automata again. I'm like, oh, this and this and this that I didn't even know before. So, like, I want to play through it again and get, like, the whole story.
Like, I just imagine for anybody playing now, regardless of which order they play, they play the next game, and then Devila and Popola are there, and like, what? Oh, like, that must be. Like, for me, it was exciting playing them in order, but I'd still be exciting going back, even if you kind of know their thing. Then you don't know all the things, as it were.
Right.
Speaking very vaguely, spoiler, etc.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Nier to go on sale, then I'm gonna pick it up. The PS4 one, the one they just remastered, it'll probably go on sale soon if it hasn't yet. Yeah, and then Automata or whatever goes on sale like every freaking other week, I feel like. So I'll pick that up too. Freaking Bio says, I heard a rumor about the Yakuza and Judgment series. May or may not be true, but I heard that from Dragon going forward, all future Yakuza games will be all turn-based, with Judgment continuing the same old school mechanics.
I've heard that too.
I don't think that's a rumor, honestly, though, because I read that same thing on some site, and I feel like it's probably true at this rate. Because why else? I thought Judgment was going to be like a one-off spin-off, just one game, but they're releasing a sequel to it this year, and then there's Like a Dragon that just came out last year, and that's turn-based, where they completely changed up the combat. And then Judgment, they're keeping this combat like basically the exact same, but just improving on it. Like, I watched the trailer the other day, and they were talking about the combat, and I feel like they're improving on it just like they would do on like Yakuza, like before Like a Dragon. So I kind of feel like there's truth to that. I think they will keep Like a Dragon, or the Like a Dragon sequel, like 8, I guess. I feel like they will keep it turn-based, because I think it got a pretty good reception, right? Like a Dragon did pretty good in sales and like reviews, I believe. So they're probably going to do that.
And one of the things that
expect it, though, but it seems like it
that Yakuza was doing was aging the characters up in real time. So you can only have, a character fight in still be as pseudo believable as it was prior to that anyway. So it's it's time for some of the characters to retire at this point, and let a new thing happen.
That's something about Yakuza that I just had to have suspension of belief, because I mean, Kiryu was like 50 or 48 or 49 or something like that by the time like 6 comes out, or by 6, right? He's like 40 something, and he's still fighting like he was in part 1, and he was like 30 something in part 1 because that 10-year time skip that they had.
Oh, okay.
He was 27 to 37. At that age already, people were calling him like old man, and I'm like, like 37 just is like, old man in Japan. It's kind of funny. I'm like
sitting here 35, like, oh.
Oh my god! I'm like,
I would be that grizzled old guy in a JRPG.
Yeah, you would be Orin right now.
Yeah,
you got to get a sword, and like
a sword and a jacket that goes up to here on my face.
Yeah. Maybe a scar that goes this and this.
Yeah, scar on your eye, like on your chin, like over here. It's like, how do you get these? How do they always get these face scars?
Walk they're not with a big old flask.
If the sword hit you that close, shouldn't you be like dead? It's like you just got a thick scar like this.
It's one of those where they hit you across the face like this. It's like, I did it, you won't do that again. And it's like, oh yeah? It's like, oh, you did. I'm so mad.
But their swords are so like extravagantly long and whatnot, like, and wide. Like, how do you get a scar like right here and not die from it? Like, it's always the craziest stuff. Like, what did they hit you with?
Weird way that healing magic works, I guess. Doesn't always cure scars, but keeps you alive.
The blade is like Cloud Sword. Cloud Sword is like one of the biggest swords you see like in gaming. Yeah. It's like, it's bigger than me.
Right. Like, grab you by the feet and hit other people with you.
It's one of those 3D game things that once graphical fidelity improves even just a little bit more, we're going to have to start dealing with, because in a game, if I've got a guy and I hit him with a sword, the animation of the sword is going to go through the guy, right?
Right.
And he'll stagger and some blood will come out, but clearly the sword went through him. Uh-huh. So that's also how the old man gets scars. It's just the sword going through his head. As well, he's a video game character. But what are we going to do? Like, are swords going to like start pushing people, or are we going to have more insta-kill games with swords or things like that? Because it's going to look ridiculous if we have a photorealistic guy and the sword's like faking its way through him.
Right.
Then don't you think?
I get what you're saying with that. I didn't really think about it, but like if they're going to go, because it's going to get to that point where everything's just like you said, photorealistic. Like why would you have such cartoony game, you know, animations like just slicing right through somebody? It's like you want that to also be photorealistic if you're going that.
That kind of is a problem. That I think about it every now and then. Like Dynasty Warriors, for example, you're going through like hundreds of people, like you're slashing them like through their body, but you still take like 10 hits to kill them. And I'm like, it's like once again, suspension of belief has to like kick in, and you have to like put aside all like expectations of realism just for the sake of the game. But then in cutscenes, it's like they'll be dueling like, oh, I get tired, I run away. But in like actual game combat, I'm like, I slashed you like 100 times. How are you still alive? You should be crawling. But they just get up. Ah, I lost. I'm like,
or the one where the first time I ever saw this was Parasite Eve for the PS1, and it still gets me every time. And you know, you're fighting the boss. You have your like chain gun or rocket launcher, boom, 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 and then the cutscene, and it goes down. And it comes up again, and your character takes out her default pistol. It's like, I'm going to shoot you once if you move. And it should be like, you're going to shoot me once? You should be shooting me a bunch right now.
Right.
And being like, I'm going to stop shooting you if you know, it doesn't. But the other thing about a photorealistic thing, like, it's great to cut through like 100 cartoons, but imagine like every single guy, you could like look in their eyes, like you'd have nightmares. It's just
man.
People.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah,
like freaking VR, like, in 4K.
Like even Resident Evil 8 in VR is still pretty like. Or sorry, I played 7 in VR. I haven't played 8. Is it 8 in VR? I assume it is.
I would imagine it must be.
Yeah. But like just seeing the enemies like grab your head and be in your face,
right?
And or like there's parts where like bugs are crawling over your vision and stuff like that as well. Man.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
It's pretty freaky.
Oh, the little bit I played 7, it's like this is made for VR.
Yeah, from the first person and stuff like that, and you know the way everything moves around, but it's still cartoony enough where you don't feel like you're an actual like axe murderer or something when you hack through these things, or like Soul Calibur, for example. That's what I think of with the weapons collision thing. Like it's cartoony enough, even though it's like a more realistic looking fighting game where you know you'll impale a character, pick them up with your sword, throw them down, they'll get up and they're like, oh, that was 25% damage. That was tough, kind of thing. Whereas we won't be able to do that on the PS10 if they're doing like the scan your friends mode. Like that'd be awful.
Right.
I'm really curious. Have you both played Resident Evil 8?
No.
Now?
I've spoiled the story of Resident Evil 8. I haven't played it yet. I've played every other Resident Evil except for 7 and 8. Well, I played a little bit of 7, but I haven't beaten 7 or 8. I haven't played 8 at all.
7 and 8 are the ones I haven't played. Like, but I feel like that's another series that they kind of just... I think when it's like... You ever think about series of games where they make like such radical changes?
Every so often they reboot it.
Resident Evil is the one that comes to my mind. Every time I think about them, I just think about like I look at 1, I look at 2, I look at 3, and I'm like, okay, and Code Veronica and 0, and I see it all. Okay, then I look at 4. I never played 4, but I look at 5 and 6 that I played, and I'm just like, okay, they seem like over here. Like they're not even 5 and 6. This is like a whole new series. I look at 7 and 8, and I've watched people play 7 and 8, and I'm just like, this is like over there. Like. The only thing tying them together is like the story. They just gameplay wise, they seem so scattered, you know?
Yeah, they could have been different games, but 4, 5, and 6 make a nice action trilogy, which, you know, internet people are always like, oh, it's not real a Resident Evil, except that is what the designers wanted it to be like from the beginning. They just couldn't technology wise. But a lot of people like that. Some of Capcom's highest selling games. So
Resident Evil 5 sold like 8 million copies or something crazy. Like it sold like
I didn't even know it sold that well.
Oh,
that's crazy.
Even 6, which was panned, sold like 5, 6, 7 million copies, like a ton.
That's wow.
Yeah, they're in the top 20 Capcom games ever, up with like Street Fighter and Monster Hunter and stuff like that.
Whoa, okay. I didn't know 5 and 6 really sold that much.
I think
know
5's
like
the best-selling Resident Evil, but I could be wrong.
I know 4 is like one of the most critically acclaimed of the whole series. I know 4 and like freaking like 2, I think.
Yep.
But dang.
What kills me is that 5 is so clearly just 4, but more, which is exactly what I wanted, and presumably what other people wanted. When I played 4, so there's this part in 4, which is very similar to the intro of 5. There's this part in 4 where you have to move some furniture in front of some windows. Mm-hmm. You know, you're panicking as some, zombies are busting in, and you need the furniture in the way so that you can handle the spill in. And there's an AI pal who's going around with you, also shooting at some guys. And I was like, I want a whole game of just this. I want a Luis with me. I want to be panicking as I'm shooting some stuff coming in, but I want to be like high octane as it goes. And then Resident Evil 5 demo comes out, and it's like, you're in a little hut, you've got a partner, there's a big enemy outside the window, and I'm like, you did it. You did exactly what I wanted. I didn't even like have to tweet or anything. You just knew what I wanted. But then everybody on the internet is like, oh, this isn't real Resident Evil. Why am I not traipsing around putting diamond keys into diamond holes and moving statues around? It's like, did you really like that part? Or was that just the part you saw or played? Like, I don't know.
I feel like Resident Evil game, I never really been into horror games too much because I'll get like panicked and then just freaking quit the damn game like halfway through. But I feel like the original trilogy is widely different. Yeah, like 4, 5, and 6 could be considered like the action trilogy. 1, 2, and 3 could be considered like the freaking survival horror trilogy or whatever.
I'm sure 9 will be first person.
Yeah, like 7, 8, and 9 look like they're going to be the same thing.
Yeah, they'll make a little.
And then but then you have all the spin-offs. Like Resident Evil is one of those series too that has spin-offs like
there's like Code Veronica and Survivor and like Vile says Outbreak.
Yeah, Outbreak, Survivor, the other Survivor. I think there was 2 Survivors. Yes. And then there's Revelations. There's 2 of them. Yep. And then...
Yeah, so Revelations are in the action series. That's right. And then things like Operation Raccoon City is basically a SOCOM game.
Yep.
It's all by itself. And then there's this weird first-person shooter multiplayer arena game. What's it called? I only played it a little bit. They didn't advertise it very much.
There's more spin-offs in the main series now, actually.
Yeah, it's
Dead Aim?
No, it's a PS4 game.
Umbrella Corps?
What did you call it? Umbrella
Corps?
I think so. Yeah.
That was
Yeah, that's right. Umbrella Corps. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the least possible. Least that and Survivor are probably the least popular Resident Evil games. It just so happens they're both multiplayer focused. That's weird. Or competitive multiplayer focused even. That said, I am excited to play the Resident Evil Survivor game. It comes with Resident Evil 8, but you can't play it until July or August, it says. It's like service not begun yet. So it's like but I like that it's a separate game. That's the multiplayer game as opposed to trying to cram it into the single player game. Like that's so 2008 to try to force a multiplayer mode where it's in the single player as well. Yeah.
Oh man, Resident Evil. They have more games than I thought. Survivor, Gaiden, Dead Aim, Outbreak File 2, the Umbrella Chronicles, the Dark Side Chronicles, the Mercenaries 3D, Revelations, Operation Raccoon City, Revelations 2, Umbrella Corps. Oh my, like.
Then the whole movie series. Like 6, 7 of those.
6 movies, and now they're making. Aren't they like doing a new movie again?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they're doing a whole reboot movie, starting over again from like the first one again, something like that. It's freaking like Resident Evil was the biggest freaking not the biggest. I'm trying to think, like the biggest survival horror franchise. I feel like
it kind of invented the genre.
Would imagine. Yeah.
I'm trying to be one bigger.
Like Silent Hill was trying, but like it's kind of petered out in recent years.
Yeah. And Konami's finished, so
right.
It's the end of
that.
that.
Too busy making pachinko machines and cell phone games.
Are you scared? Well, I lost all my money in like 1 second, so yeah, yes. I guess I'm scared.
Technically speaking. Being really esoteric about this, Konami.
Did Konami really dissolve? Like,
they exist, but they just make pachinko machines and like cell phone games. That's it.
So they don't make like console games anymore? No. That's crazy.
Like occasionally you'll get like a Castlevania collection or whatever. But like,
wait, so they stopped making not Resident Evil. What the hell was their series? Fucking
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear. They stopped making Metal Gear games. They quit.
A lot of stuff.
After 5. Man, Metal Gear, Silent Hill, Castlevania, Contra.
I think Metal Gear is a special case because it's sold to something else now. That's why, like Metal Gear 5, Konami was finished, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, and then Metal Gear 5. They're like, screw you, Kojima, we hate you. Get out of here. And Kojima's like fine then. I'll go make Death Stranding.
I still don't know that whole issue like behind Konami and Kojima. I heard about it. I just don't know what it's all about, though. Like, what the hell is that whole situation? They fired him, right? Like, they kicked him out the company or something?
I think it's as simple as, like, artistic differences or whatever. They didn't let him do whatever because the company was too big. Whereas with, like, Yoko Taro, who does, Nier and all that, I think Japan really likes their auteur things where, like, the lead, the game director, like, has... this kind of intense, like their hands in everything. There, like another one I like is Swery, who make the Deadly Premonition games and other things like D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die, which only got one game in the episodic series of it, or Pseudo Goichi or Pseudo 51, who made the No More Heroes games, and things like Killer is Dead or Lollipop Chainsaw. Like those games all feel like, oh yeah, this one kind of like mastermind is like really doing this. Whereas like, could you play an Assassin's Creed game and know that Jade Raymond was like the big executive behind it? Not really. They don't really have the same like fingerprints on the types of games. So I think that's why it's such a big deal that Kojima was removed, because like, well, the auteur, that's what you do for a big Japanese thing. But so yeah, that's betrayal.
But he seems to have been behind, like the way they speak about him, like he was the one that really made Metal Gear Solid like what it is. So I'm genuinely surprised that they let that even happen. Everything. Metal Gear Solid redefined like freaking video gaming, in my opinion. Honestly, like really they made that a movie. Like that's nuts.
It kind of showed us what you can do with the medium of a game. Like you can't do an 80-hour movie. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And like a TV show is just a different thing as well. Although now we're finally catching up with that in terms of like Netflix shows that can just be one long episode, basically. Right. But yeah, that's just, basically decades before its time, like Metal Gear Solid 2, just a very long movie, but also still a game, but also works because it's a game. It's like you're being manipulated. Right. It's not just a game. It's like, oh, this wouldn't work. It's just a movie. And I love that.
Yeah. Oh, man. New movie called Welcome to Raccoon City, releasing early September, Vile says. Oh, it's releasing in September already? I didn't know it was... I figured it was going to be out like next year or something like that.
Yeah, Vile was telling me about that the other day.
Have you guys watched the Resident Evil movies? Like, I saw maybe the first like 3 or 4 of them.
The first one and like bits and pieces of the last one.
It was weird. I don't even normally watch movies like that honestly, because I'm not a horror fan like that. But like my friend, I think I watched them with him maybe, and they were all right. But having known the story of all the games, looked at the movies, like, what the hell was going on? Like, it was just
a bunch of stuff. Like,
it just like they took like creative like freedom and just ran with it for the whole series. I'm like, none of this stuff is relevant to like the games. It was just
although they do the bit in some of the later movies where they like shot for shot have the Wesker and Jill fight, like where in Resident Evil 5 there's the bit where he throws the glasses and Chris catches them. And he's like, "What the?" And then in the movie, Wesker does the same thing where he teleports over and hits them, and then hit, and then flips them over and throws them down. And they just shot for shot do the choreography. I both loved it because that's my favorite bit in 5, but it's also like, can you just do your own thing? I don't know. And then at the end of the movie, Jill has the control gem and stuff like that, and so they're taking cues, but like weird cues, the same way that like the Super Mario Brothers movies, like, well, there's a dinosaur named Yoshi, same thing.
Right, yeah.
Oh man, no, that's the part when you find Wesker and Jill like in that like facility somewhere, right? And you have to fight them both, and then like take the thing off her like chest or whatever or something.
It's like a co-op moment too, because the one character has to like hold her, and the other character has to match the button to get the thing off.
Yeah.
And then you have to talk to HR because that's not appropriate. You can't really be doing that with it, but okay.
Yeah, that part was funny. I was like, well, it's kind of weird placing where they have it, because I mean, but
on her head or something, that would have made more
sense. Like on her forehead. I like that'd be more appropriate for the youngsters playing. But I mean, hey,
for all the
that game was
Resident Evil. Yeah,
hell,
specific choices were made. But
I mean, I was a teenager when I played Resident Evil.
Yeah, I haven't played Part 5 in years though. I gotta try it again one day. I forgot if I have it. We gotta play it if I have it. You have it on PlayStation?
PlayStation 5? Yeah.
I think I have it on PS4. I might go check and download it if I do.
It for sure exists. I played 5 and 6 on PS4.
I'm about to check my freaking library and see if I have it downloaded. Bought yet.
When you played 5 and 6 on PS4, did they feel dated, or did it kind of feel like, oh yeah, this is pretty modern?
I thought it was fine. I had never played them at that point, but like I was also playing them with a buddy, so it was like I didn't really know. I didn't feel like they were dated when I played them. Yeah,
I just thought they were ahead of time on their previous consoles. So yeah, replaying them, it's like, yeah, these still look pretty good. Like, well, they're AAA games. You know, they got motion capture and like the face textures and everything, all the bells and whistles. So, but yes, see, I'm glad you played it co-op though, because I feel like everybody who hates the games were trying to play them solo.
It's meant to be played co-op, big time.
It did definitely.
100%.
I just checked. I actually do have Part 5 on the PS4. I just checked my freaking library. I don't have 6 anymore though, but I do have 5. But yeah, they made. That's one of the few co-op games like I really played like on the PS. Well, I played originally on the Xbox 360, but I don't see why it got so much hate. I know it was like more actiony and all that stuff, but it still kind of felt somewhat like Resident Evil.
Yeah, it wasn't scary at all. But like,
yeah, that's why I did play it, because I wasn't scared. I wasn't terrified. Like Part 2, Resident Evil 2, like terrified me. Like especially as a kid, that was like freaking traumatic. Like I can't play that. Like 5, I was like, okay, I can play this. I'm not exactly scared. 2, I was just like,
yeah.
I think it depends on the person too, though. Like there's stuff that we now expect as a later gamer and stuff like that. Like I started playing Resident Evil 5 with one of my friends, and very early in the game, when you see like the blonde woman get pulled by the hair into the thing there, my friend was like, "This is too much." There, I can't do. No, and then they're like feeding the viral things, and he's like transforming. My friend's like, "No, we got to stop this now. This is too much." It's like, okay. Whereas again, like I didn't feel like during most parts of 5 and 6, the parts where like the boss type characters like Ustanak with the big drill hand like busting through and chasing you, I felt some tension, especially in those parts in particular, especially the harder difficulties.
Yeah.
And 5, there's a lot of good chase sequences as well. Showing the game to somebody who wasn't used to these kinds of games, totally freaked out. Like no Mayman, no game, Newton Corbin. But we have this callus built up.
Right.
Like I'm playing Resident Evil 8, and I love horror games, and I've played all these weird esoteric ones, and I watch all these weird horror movies. I don't know what's wrong with me. But there's a few parts still that make me go, and now they're getting better. Like you'll clear out an area, and it's kind of obvious, and then you turn around, it's another enemy, but it's like right there, kind of thing, and that's kind of so if it makes me go, it's probably making somebody else like cry blood or something. So I think it depends on your own scale.
Yeah, if you played like 1, 2, and 3 and whatnot, which were like a lot like scarier, like generally speaking, then you can play like 5 and 6, and it's just kind of like
whatever.
Oh well, that's not nearly as bad as what I saw in the previous games. So yeah, I can take it. But if you're completely new to it, then yeah, even that would be like, yeah, it's a little bit too much.
Well, even like I found the Resident Evil 2 remake was actually pretty like there's like a lot of the like they're really good at like jump scaring you, like that feeling of panic. Like they're really good at that with 2 in particular. I felt. What's going on, Kodo?
I feel
like the graphics
Evil
are just so like hyper realistic too that you would just see like when you'd see some of the guts in 2, it's like eh.
Yeah. Part of the problem with 1 and 2 and 3 was, I mean, it was like a whole like you were in that survival horror mode because you know how hard it was to find ammo. Like you had like 5 bullets and you had to get through like 3 more rooms of like enemies. But in 5 and 6, you're just like, I have a freaking machine gun, I have a shotgun, I got a pistol, I got a rocket launcher, I have like freaking 1,000 bullets. I'm not like scared as much. I'm kind of like prepared, you know. Like,
I think
like I can kill whatever comes my way.
Yeah, Resident Evil 5 on normal difficulty gives you most of the time enough ammo to kill everything, and that's kind of I think what made some people disappointed with it. If they just started on a higher difficulty, then I think that's what really makes a survival horror game. I keep trying to find it, and then playing Resident Evil 8, some monster. There's no spoilers are coming, and I'll have the shotgun and I'll go wide and I'll lose that one shell and I lost a shotgun shot. Oh no. So I think a survival horror game can be defined by if you miss a shot and you feel bad, that's probably a survival horror game.
Yeah.
And in Resident Evil 5, especially if you're playing on normal difficulty and you miss a shot, you're like, meh, then that's why it doesn't feel like survival. That's what my definition is going to be.
Oh yeah, because you have to survive with like your limited ammo and limited like weapons. Yeah. But in 5 and 6, that wasn't really the case. You know, like you have enough to kill whatever you need to. You know, I feel like they need to go back to like the originals, and Resident Evil 2 remake probably is the closest thing that we've seen to, you know, the original trilogy. You know what I mean? Like I watched a whole playthrough of that. Like I watched somebody stream it, and I was just like enthralled the whole time. I'm like, yeah, this is what they should do. I heard the 3 remake didn't get as much like critical acclaim and like praise and whatnot, but 2 remake, I think they kind of like hit the nail on the head with that.
I had a lot of fun with 3.
Kind of weaker game.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of rushed it.
The base game, yeah. So you know the original guts of it, they're not working with his. You know, you're kind of an open area, which was novel at the time because, you know, again, in terms of what you can do, like Resident Evil 1, it's like, well, we can only render this much mansion, so you're going to be in this much mansion. Resident Evil 2, it's like, well, we have a few more areas, but you're still basically claustrophobic. Resident Evil 3, you're on the streets sometimes. Ooh, look at that. Even though you're really just in corridors that are street-shaped now. But I think what the stuff you were supposed to be wowed by, that stopped being a wow 20 years ago. So the kind of the foundation they're building on isn't as strong. But at the same time, if you're just like, I want some more Resident Evil. Oh, here it is. Then that's what you're supposed to feel from that. And I think there's no point in spending more time on this because that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah, with gaming, like just the hardware and the software and everything like that improving so much, it's like your limitations are not there. So the expectations that the gamers have changed like drastically because they know like, oh, well, you can do A through Z now. It's not just like your expectations just change a whole lot in comparison. Mm-hmm. You know, I would like them to just remake 1, 2, and 3 like just as they are with the same like camera angle and everything. That I wonder how well they would sell. Just a complete graphic overhaul where they look like, you know, like 1080 or 4K or whatever and 60 FPS and all that. And they just redo the cutscenes.
When they did the Resident Evil 1 remake on the GameCube, like that was fantastic.
Yeah, it did like pretty well. People liked it and everything. If they just did that again, but now with like PS4 like level graphics and cutscenes, like,
well,
you know what I mean?
They did do the Resident Evil 1 remake as well, so that has all high fidelity and everything. But I think it just wasn't. it was a nice kind of nostalgia thing, but I think they couldn't carry that through 3 games. I think people get sick of it after they were done. So I think that's where that experiment went.
You talking about the remake for? Wait, are we talking about the GameCube remake of 1, or
I'm talking about the PS4 remake of 1.
I didn't play that.
I probably haven't played it. Yeah, I probably haven't played that. Then.
That's why they jumped to the Resident Evil 2 remake, because it already remade that one, and so it's mostly the same game, but there's still a few more thrills and spills kind of thing. Like if you try to open the front door in the original one, this zombie appears, but in this one, actual zombie enemy appears, and you have to fight them, kind of thing. So just cute little things like that to change things up. But it's basically that, and it's good. But I could feel myself like, okay, by the end of the game, when you're still doing the running around in circle boss battle, like I want something a bit more, aim at them properly type game for my subsequent entries. And then they did.
Another game that really needs a remake, I feel like. Which one could really use a freaking kick? I think freaking...
I would always love to see Final Fantasy VI get more love, but give that Octopath...
Or remake of Final Fantasy 2.
Either give that Octopath Traveler graphics. I would be okay with like a AAA reboot, but if they did like Octopath style Final Fantasy VI, I think a lot of people would go for that.
Did you see the remake of the games like Shantae, the Half Genie Hero, where they went from pixel to like the cell animation?
I'm not familiar with Shantae.
I heard of them, but I never played them.
Okay. So basically my question was going to be, if they were going to redo Final Fantasy VI, would you want it so that they're like individual, kind of like proper high definition anime type characters, or would you want them to be pixel graphics?
I figure if they're going to
I never played 6.
I don't know.
I played 6 for like a few minutes, maybe. That's it.
I had it back in the day. Then I got the PS1 version also of 6. Super Nintendo one's better just for like load time sake. Load times are pretty brutal for 6.
Yeah.
No, it was really good.
Trigger.
But no,
okay, how about this then?
Chrono Trigger's fabulous. One of my all-time favorites.
So the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remake or the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake, They have the cute little 3D chibi type sprites. Would you like that for Final Fantasy VI?
I don't think I'd be opposed to it. Like, I wouldn't mind them going kind of like, high definition with it, rather than going full, like, pixel art with it.
I would like a they already did a remake of 7. I don't know. I feel like they need a remake, like, start Sly Cooper over, or Jack and Daxter. Like, it's a classic PS2 series that, like, defined the freaking PS2 as a platformer, because they had the JRPGs, like, on lock, but, like, we sometimes forget that they also had platformers. They had Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, and Sly Cooper all as well, which were all, like, trilogies that did, like, freaking super great. And they only continued, like, Sly Cooper got one game on the PS3, and then, like, that was it. And then Ratchet and Clank is the only one that really continued proper onto, like, the PS3, the PS4, and now the PS5. I'm like, what happened to some of these, like, classic series,
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, they can get a reboot or a remake or, like, remaster, just, toss them back out. I think people would still enjoy them.
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon remake,
Oh, there's always these kind of... There's definitely must be a market for these kind of, mascot-y type platformers as well, especially when people are like, well, the, PlayStation, Xbox aren't very fun. Only Nintendo has some fun characters. Like, well, actually, but you kind of have to look for them a bit more, I guess.
They're just not right out in the open, but they're there for sure.
On the box.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the games that I would have wanted remade just have been remade. I would have wanted Yakuza 1 remade. It got a whole remade. They redid the audio dialogue, and they re-rendered the cutscenes and things like that. They didn't just upscale the fidelity. things like Tomb Raider, I would want a reboot for that. Oh, they did. It's really good. Stuff like that. Or even things like X-Wing, like Squadrons is basically a remake of the original X-Wing as well. And then my favorite series, Street Fighter, basically, like Street Fighter V is fairly old school in its kind of mechanics as well. It's it's got all the original fighters in it now, except for Fei Long and DJ and Thunderhawk, but we'll get around to it. Yeah, so I feel like my demographic of stuff I like, they're just going to keep on making those things or re-releasing them with slightly better versions pretty easily. So, what's more niche? It'd probably be something like that I want them to make an English version of. Like I feel like is the Vita game Uppers getting an English release, or is that going to be like PC only or something like that? That's a brawler.
That's one of the games that didn't get released in English, right?
Yeah. That's really cool, and I liked it. I liked the gameplay, but of course I couldn't understand the story at all. So
it is on PC apparently.
Oh, there you go. In English?
It's on Steam, so I assume it is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Jealous. Huh.
Damn.
Let's make it for my fun machine.
I know, right? I want to know that. That looked like that was going to be one that was fun.
That's what the Switch is good for. There's been a couple games that were like lost in Vita limbo, and then they come out on the Switch instead, like later in English. Like, oh, all right, thank you. I'll buy it.
Oh man, but look what they did with Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. Those were the mascot characters and whatnot for PlayStation 1. They did the whole Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, and then and before that they had Spyro trilogy or whatever, and then that was 1, 2, and 3, and that was 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
That is something I want them to do for Sly Cooper. Like, put it in the PS5 or PS4, update the graphics, fix the loading times, and just maybe like fix some things, like if there was any bugs and glitches and things of that nature, maybe throw in something like new, whatever the hell it could be, and then just put it out. Like, I'll get it like probably day one, because those are great games, Like, they could do that, just like they did for the Spyro and Crash. They could do that for Jax, and they could do that for Sly Cooper, because those were the games they were the Crash and Bandicoot and Spyro of like the PS2 era. 3 games, sold pretty well. Everybody liked them. They were like a freaking mascot. All that stuff. Stuff like that. I'm like, I don't have a problem with that. Because we haven't been able to really play them proper, because it's who has these games on a PS1 and PS2 and a console working, like just lying around everywhere. How many people really do?
Well, like,
have you ever gone on eBay or go on Amazon and eBay and look at how much like some of these like PS1, 2, and 3 games cost? Mm-hmm. It's like ridiculous.
Crazy. Tales of Destiny 2. I want a physical copy of it, but the last time I saw one in the wild, it was $250, and I refuse.
No.
I won't.
No, that's
like, even 100's pushing it, but if it's like practically my favorite game and I don't have it, I might hit 100. But like 200, forget it. I'll just never play it again.
Yeah, and that's just it. So a game series that I'd like a remake of, and they could just even straight release. They don't even have to fix anything. They just need a modern console. Would be a game I only learned about through the crossover series of Namco Crosscom and Project Cross Zone. And Project Cross Zone 2 is a Xeno Saga.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Then there's characters. Cosmos and Tielos, and that, like, they just seem really cool, but I just can never play the games that they are in, because apparently the third one is bad and the first 2 are super expensive, or the other way around, or something like that. And it's like, well, and having to dig out a PS2 and get an English version of it.
Yeah, I'm surprised those haven't been re-released. Like, I played one and it just loved Xenogears. That's like, I love that game. But then I played Xenosaga, and it wasn't clicking with me at the time. But then I played Xenosaga 2, and I did not like it. So then I just didn't play 3. But if they were to re-release them again, I would give them a second chance.
Yeah.
I never played any of the Xeno games yet. If they remastered them or remade them or whatever, I'd probably like use that opportunity to like jump into the series.
Yeah. Because for how much I like Xenogears, I think if I were to like actually get into Xenosaga, I'd probably be really into that too. It just didn't quite hook me. Cause just I don't know. It was like I could handle all the story that was in Xenogears because I was like reading it or whatever. But like having it like voice acted to me, it was too much for me. But
Much input, just everything. Yeah.
but I would
That was
I
a
would try.
PS
I would give him another chance.
You said Xenosaga or Xenogears?
Xenosaga had 3 entries.
Oh, that was on a PS2, right?
Yes, Xenogears was PS1, which I would love to see a remaster of. Like a fully realized Xenogears would be crazy.
Well, both of those series, basically PS1 and PS2, those are both old enough to, at this point, like there'd be a definite difference, like it's 3 or 4 console generations removed now, pretty much. So they could do a remake or like a remaster and be like get a whole new like bunch of fans for it.
Yeah,
introduce you to new.
I looked that up the other day about a possible re-release, and it said something to the effect of, like, look, I need to have the buzz on Twitter and to show me that this many people are interested in it. Right. And then I had another post later. It's like, okay, so it can't be the same person sending me a Twitter message every day for 2 years. That's not what I mean. I mean, I need a large number of people, not just a large number of tweets. So yeah, it's
right.
And then basically explained how it costs. They basically did the math, whereas it costs this much to re-release it, and they'd make only this much money. So it's just
can't crunch the
impossible.
Numbers.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's what it comes down to a lot. Is the manpower, like the paying all the developers and the sound guys and all that stuff. And then the marketing and promotion. I get it, but I just hate when it comes down to a matter of like, oh well, we need to make at least like 10 million before we put out this project. And it's like, I know there's only like maybe like a few thousand of us that want it, but I'm like, when money gets in the way of like getting that game you want, you know what I mean? Like released again or like for the first time or whatever. It's just like, oh crap,
Well, that's why I think it's nice, when not everything has to be a AAA game. Like some people, on Reddit or whatever, it's like all games are the same nowadays. There's no risks being taken. It's like, man, what games are you playing? Like, there's lots to choose from.
Right.
Like I play, just all sorts of anything if it, catches my eye. And often, they're kind of lower fidelity. Again, why my PS4 hadn't made this jet engine noise at all, I think, just because I'm playing single layer, double A games, to turn a phrase. And, if things had Xbox 360 graphics forever, that's fine. That's quite serviceable.
I'd be fine with that.
I think. Yeah. Or even less, like Tales of the Zodiacs and stuff like that. Like, it's pretty simple looking, got to support those Canadian developers as well. Yeah. Or even, what's the one that I was playing by Cappy Games? So first they did, what was the one with the luchador and it was like a Metroidvania game?
Oh, I don't remember.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Don't know.
That description must sound insane, though, I suppose. Let's see.
I'm intrigued. A luchador Metroidvania.
Guacamelee, that's right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I never played it, but I remember seeing the trailer and everything.
Yeah. So it's pretty, it doesn't have amazing, super realistic 3D anything. But looking up, this is the wrong kind of. So there's a Toronto developer called Capybara Games, which I imagine is named after the capybaras that are at the zoo downtown, and like all of their things are, pretty limited. Oh, Grindstone, that's it. It's cell animated, but it's very simple. They had one that came out before that. That was called, what was it? But it's like a super minimalist game, like your characters, just this tiny kind of group of pixels. And it's just pixel art. Now, pixel art, of course, is intensive, but it's not hardware intensive or anything. Right. It's just of a labor of love. So these sorts of games, I dig that. Now I like going back to Resident Evil 8 and having like this WoW experience, but I like that there's room for both, basically.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Definitely. Vile says Square sell the Xenogears IP to Monolith Soft.
They should. If they're just going to do nothing with it, then they should.
Wait, what is Monolith? I haven't heard of that.
Monolith Soft is basically the developers that were responsible for Xenogears to begin with. They did Xenosaga and the Xenoblade games.
Ah, okay. Wait, is Xenoblades part of the Xeno? Like that's the same thing?
Well, it's like I don't think the games are connected at all, but it's like the same like developers.
Okay, because I played Xenoblade Chronicles, I believe, for the freaking 3DS. That when I first got my 3DS and I was looking for different games to get, I got Xenoblades and I honestly returned it like the next day. I wasn't interested in it too much, but I'm assuming they're different, like combat wise, right? Because the combat will turn me off with Xenoblades.
Well, Xenosaga and Xenogears are both like turn-based RPGs.
Oh, like FF and Dragon Quest and stuff.
A little different than that, but yeah, to boil it down, like Xenogears, it had kind of like it's like press square circle X, and you got like a heavy punch, a medium punch, and like a low punch, and you could find like combos and stuff. But there's also mech battles too, which functioned a little differently.
Cool. That sounds wild. They should remake.
Pretty fun.
Some of these games I want to go back and play, but I'm like, I can't. It's hard to put myself.
Well, there's so many games, right? Like you're gonna miss out on.
It's like I can go back and play Mega Man on an emulator or something like that because I'm used to playing it as a kid. But it's hard for me to go and play a game for the first time ever, like for the PlayStation,
right? And
put myself back into like, oh crap, I forgot like the mechanics and all that stuff and the graphics. I'm like, like I can play Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time like every day with those graphics because I'm so accustomed to it since I've been doing it since I was like 7.
Yeah.
But if I had never played it before, it will be hard to like do it for the first time when it. Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a barrier.
So there's so many quality of life improvements that come in, like hell, being able to save whenever you want. Like a lot of games didn't have that, like on the PlayStation 1.
Well,
there was like remember save spots? Like oh my god, like.
Well, that's why
it's like oh man.
The Saga Frontier remaster that came out, like going back and playing Saga Frontier on the PS1 is a bit of a tall order, but they made it so much more accessible now. Like they made the graphics a lot better, and like you could always save anywhere. But now there's like a new game plus where you could carry over stuff. There's like the ×3 speed. Like it doesn't waste your time the same way. You can still get pretty well the whole experience, but it's not like as much of a grind unless you want it to be. Then it can be as much of a grind as you want, but like if you want to just kind of cruise through it and enjoy it, you can. But if you were to play it on the PS1, it's way more of a slog. That's why I'd like to see Xenogears again, like with the ability to speed. Even if you just gave me Xenogears the exact same way, but you can actually speed through the text, that would go a long way.
That itself is such a time saver, man. Like, because. So is it one of those games where you can't just like skip the text? You have to wait for it to crawl?
Yes.
Oh my! I can't do that. I can't. Ocarina of Zelda's like that. I can't stand that. I read pretty freaking quick, so I'm like waiting. Like, don't waste more of my hours doing this. I've already read it 5 times, and you're finally like to the bottom.
Like the story in Xenogears is great, but like it's not. The text scroll's not fast enough.
Wait, pours out. Yeah, that's one of the first things that I go to in RPG is like instantaneous, and then
right.
Yeah, they have to have the setting. Speed up the dialogue. Instant. Okay, we're good.
or often in a voiced game, even like in kind of got like Jet Girls, for example. Like there's a lot of dialogue, but it's in English with Japanese audio. So I just wait for the end of a sentence and just like and next. Kind of thing, because we don't want to cut them off. That'd be rude.
Yeah.
But you gotta get a good point where you can just scoot ahead. Then, because there's only so much drama you can stand when talking about your best friends not liking your jet ski designs and stuff like that.
Wait, that game is on a PS4, right? I think I remember you mentioned it before.
Yep.
Oh man, damn! Whenever I think of that game, it reminds me of freaking Santa Kagura. Like, I don't know what they're doing with that game. Like that just brings me back to censorship.
I think it was supposed to have Senran Kagura mechanics, and the anime strongly suggests that there were, but none of that is present in the game. It's pretty like vanilla in terms of like you shoot the enemies and their jet ski stops and that's it. There's no like cut in effect or anything like that.
I feel like I'm a freaking you played the Santa Kagura games, right? Or you haven't played them before, you like Har?
No.
Like that's one of those series I feel like I hit when Sony did this whole like censorship thing. Like I feel like a lot of series just kind of, or a few of them at least, kind of went like away and just like halted production. That's one of the ones that was a little risque, and I guess that only works if you're like Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto because you rank in like billions.
Yeah.
So they can't even like censor those, I guess.
Right.
But
well, money talks.
Some of the smaller games that were like borderline, like it's hard to like get this through. Like that's one of the ones that kind of disappeared. But damn.
On the PlayStation, but the Switch is like, hey, yeah, do whatever now. So who knew that Nintendo would become like the lewd system?
I know.
Right? Not like, oh yeah, no, you're cool with us. It's like, really? I guess so. All right. But hell, speaking of Grand Theft Auto, has there ever been a game that's released on 3 different consoles? Because we was talking about the console generations earlier. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 released in like 2009, 10? It was for the PS3 and Xbox 360.
Yeah.
And then they remastered it, put it on the PS4 and Xbox One. Then they released like a remaster. Did the PS5 version come out? Or is it about to come out, I believe, the PS5 version? And I haven't played it myself. I've only seen some people play it or whatever. But have you guys played Grand Theft Auto 5?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Did it make significant changes between the PS3 and PS4 and the PS5 versions?
I haven't played any of the new versions, but I think one of the only changes is there's like a first-person mode and it runs at a higher frame rate, and that's kind of it.
I feel like this is one of those things that like they're milking like too freaking hard. Like it gives me like a freaking, I don't know. Like I don't even know how to describe it. I'm at a loss for words. I've never seen a series just do that before, ever.
No,
like,
that's probably a first.
Like that's freaking
3
nuts.
console generations
for the same game. That's like
as much as I love it though, I think Street Fighter 2 might have it beat.
Really?
Though. Yeah, so Street Fighter 2 came out on the Super Nintendo. It was not arcade perfect. It didn't have like the backing up animations and stuff like that. Then multiple iterations of Street Fighter 2 came out, and then this came out for 3DO. There's a Street Fighter 2 collection, like Capcom Arcade Games collection for PlayStation 1. There's a Capcom Arcade Game collection for PlayStation 2. There's one for PlayStation 3. There's one for Dreamcast. I think I don't know if there's. I think there was a Saturn. Was there a Saturn one? I don't know. And then of course there's both the remixes on PS3 and Xbox 360, and also the classic PlayStation iterations on there, and on Xbox One and PS4, Street Fighter 2 again. And there's things like the Game Boy version as well, and the Game Boy Advance. So that's at least 12 consoles that there's a Street Fighter 2.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that either. That's too much.
On PC versions, of course.
Well, I mean, if I'm thinking about it, like Mega Man's been everywhere. Like,
Mega Man,
the Legacy collections and like the Wily Wars and
hell, Mega Man's another one of those series that, like, what the hell happened to it? They
count just Mega Man games. Although, if Mega Man 4 isn't on like everything, though I don't think. Like, is there a PlayStation 1 collection of Mega Man Nintendo games?
PlayStation 1, no.
Yeah, I don't think.
No.
On PlayStation 4, they have it.
1. There's the Mega Man Anniversary. There's the Mega Man Anniversary collection on the GameCube, PS2, Xbox.
Yeah.
Of course, PlayStation 1 would have had the Mega Man X series, though.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I wonder if it's actually something like. Yeah, I wonder if it's actually like Mega Man X4 appears in more places, something like that.
Mega Man X4. It's on. Let me see. It's on the PS1, and then the Legacy Collection on the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Well, there is the Mega Man X Collection too that came out on PS2, GameCube.
That one also. Yeah, there's a few.
So I don't know if it came out on PS3 or not in any capacity.
They need to make. What happened to that series? That's another series. I feel like they just kind of freaking up and disappeared on us.
Well, they made Mega Man 11, but that's kind of it right for now.
I want they took X to 8.
Well, like X, X. They're long overdue with a new X game.
Because they stopped at 8, and that was back for the PS2, and then they went to like Mega Man 0 for the Game Boy Advance, and there was 4, and then they went Mega Man ZX, and there was like 2 or 3 of those for like the DS, I think. And then there was like Battle Network, and then Battle Network, like whatever the Star Force, and I'm like,
yep.
They kind of just stopped after that. I never played Star Force though. I never played any of those games in that series. But
I played Battle Network.
Most of them
Star Force.
The Battle Network is freaking great. I played 1, 2, 3, I think 4 and 5. But they stopped all these series.
Jonathan. Sorry.
The team that it would take to make a Super Nintendo game, like they're not big, right? Like it's like maybe 30 people. Like Capcom should be like, okay, you 30, go make a 2D action platformer, and come back when you're done. We're not going to promise or announce anything until you're ready. And then it's like, bam, Mega Man X, whatever, and they could just do it. But I don't know, maybe it's too many resources to be like, well, we need the music person for this, or we need the graphics person for that, or again, it's just they don't expect the return on it. But if any company could do it, you'd think it'd be Capcom. Like I'm sure they've got a few extra billion.
Oh yeah, no kidding. They should just take every Mega Man has. I forgot when I made a video. Like I was talking about it. There was like they have like 7 or 8 different like series between Mega Man X, Mega Man Battle Network, Mega Man Star Force, Legends, Z0, and ZX. Yeah, they even have a spin-off. They have Mega Man Soccer. Like they could put every single game into one and just put it on the PS5.
Yeah, they could.
The Mega Man Super Collection.
Could. Yeah.
I would buy it for like $100 even.
Oh, man.
Well, that's what they did with Street Fighter. They did Street Fighter 1, 2, the other 2, the other 2, the other 2, the other 2, Alpha, the other Alpha, the other Alpha, 3, the other 3, the other 3. And then they bundled it came with 4, which technically only one version, but really 5. And that's great, and I love it. And you can just mix and match them, and you play them online and everything. So, like, yeah, just do that, Capcom. Really, but they keep releasing all their weird old arcade games. Like, I don't want to play 1942. Like, I played it to death in the past. Why are you re-releasing it again?
Oh man, that's crazy.
It's like, and then they had the arcade game classics on the previous consoles. They're like really pushing them. It's like just like you're in the arcade, the weird 3D backdrops. And then they have a new Capcom arcade thing. It's like, what are you building towards, and why don't you release all your games? Where's Alien vs. Predator or Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and stuff like that? Well, they're in like IP hell, I guess. But they can only play Captain Commando so many times.
Oh man, like freaking Vile just mentioned Mega Man Legends. I'm like, that game should have had the third one. It was supposed to be a trilogy.
Oh yeah.
They ended 2 on a cliffhanger, like pretty heavily. Like
I've heard
that whole
need to play them.
That was not a proper ending at all. And that Mega Man Legends is my favorite, one of my favorite freaking like. I don't know if you call it RPG. I mean, I guess
ish.
Action adventure. I don't know, but
everything's RPG now.
That's one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games like ever. That crap is amazing. I freaking love it.
I have Mega Man 64. I also have the Misadventures of Tron Bonne kicking around.
Hell, Mega Man 64 is Mega Man Legends.
Yeah, and I had Legends too. I don't know what the hell I did with it though.
That series though, that's one of those games that goes into like the collection of games that got canceled that freaking shouldn't have.
Well, they should just do a re-release of just being like, here's Legends 2, Tron Bonne, Merry Christmas. Here's this collection.
They maybe upgrade the controls or something a little bit because they were a bit experimental.
Yeah, they could have improved those a bit. But hell, What other
Command
game got
Mission
canceled that
and
should have been continued? Like sequel, I mean, like not a new IP.
Like just in general?
Yeah, like a sequel that people were like waiting for and never got.
I don't know.
I'm trying to think.
Beyond Good and Evil.
Beyond Good and Evil. I never played that one.
I don't know if you ever played it, but it was just really good, like GameCube game. It was like, it had, I don't think a platformer is accurate, but like, it was
I
kind
heard they
of
were making a
platformery, but
sequel for that.
I think there's been like a sequel of it recently, but it was supposed to be like a 3-part thing. But it only got like the first part until like kind of recently, and the sequel's like not at all like the first one, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what happens when they take like 10 years or 15 years before they make
not
a
even the
sequel, like,
same
comes out.
developers. Same with like Conker's Bad Fur Day. Like if they were ever to make a remake of that, it should have happened, 15 years ago. It'd be a completely different team now. It wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know. When they take too long, it's like there's different developers, there's different producers, it's whole different people entirely working on it, and they never got a sequel. And it's just like, well, if you're gonna do it now, it's too different now. It's too late. Right. You kind of lost the momentum, like, unfortunately.
Eternal Darkness is another good one, Vile's saying. I agree.
That rings a bell. I never played that one either, though. But
that's another like horror game, but it had a lot of fun like sanity mechanics in it, where it would do stuff like there's a sanity meter, and the higher up it would get, like there'd be weird stuff that would happen in the game, but sometimes it would do stuff that like would screw with you. Like there's like a knocking sound effect that the way they mastered the sound for it sounds like it's outside of the game, like the way the knock. Like the way the knock sounds, creepy. It's just like stuff like that. It's cool.
It's one that pretended to like turn the volume down on your TV as well, right? Or like change the channel.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know. That's too creepy for me.
I'd love to see a modernized version, because like the volume thing now, it's like so dated. But like back then, it's like there were TVs that had like that like volume slider, so it could trick you.
Nowadays it'd be something like it would purposely somehow take a screenshot of your console dashboard or something, and then it would like flicker like that, or it would pick through your screenshot collection, and like maybe you'd walk by something and you just see like something that was like an achievement pop up from somewhere else. Some kind of internal thing, or like what Psycho Mantis does in Metal Gear 1.
Metal Gear Solid,
memory card.
Oh, it looks like you like Gran Turismo, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He knows what you've been playing.
That was wild stuff for a video game. That's another example of like Metal Gear Solid being like really freaking a pioneer. Like, who the hell expected that?
Yeah.
Like,
Then having to plug in controller 2 for.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you had to switch the controller over to the other part so he can't do that mind reading thing or something like that.
And even playing the PS3 version, you have to do the same thing. You have to go to the dashboard or whatever and switch your controller over to controller 2, and then it'll still succeed like that. So they retain that kind of thing.
Oh, that's pretty crazy. Okay, I didn't know. I only played Metal Gear Solid on like basically the PlayStation 1. I never played the other PS2 or the PS3 version.
Yeah.
I think I have it on the Vita though. I think.
Probably.
The remastered versions. I gotta play them still. Oh man.
I have Metal Gear 1 through 5, and I think I also have Revengeance, but I've only ever played 1.
I only finished 1. I played 2. Never beat
1.
it.
I'm sorry. I played a little.
I never beat 2. I never beat 3. Since I didn't beat those, I never played 4 and 5. Really. I mean, I played 5. Like, what was the one they released before 5? It was like Ground Zero or something like that. I played that. Though. I played that. Metal
Gear Rising: Revengeance. That's what I would want a sequel to. And again, I guess we can't have that because it's in IP hell. Yeah. But like Platinum Games is my favorite developer, period. So like I will religiously buy whatever they get. That's why I got into Nier Automata right away. Well, and I've already also played Nier. But just if they're making it, I'm gonna get it. They made an iPad game recently. I'm like, I guess I'm gonna use my work iPad play this game now. But Revengeance, there's a guy where he has all these like armored shields on him, and you have to slow down time and like perfectly cut a line through only his vulnerable areas. There's another guy who's like Spring Man from Mega Man, so you're like cutting him and cutting him and cutting him, but he's like coming apart and coming apart and coming apart. So you have to like kind of counter that when he's vulnerable. Or it's also where the internet got the word meme from. So that's something. Yeah. It's a good historical kind of artifact as well.
Seriously.
Yes, that's where the spike in the word meme comes from, because one of the characters explains what memes are then, and so now it means pictures of funny Spider-Mans, I guess, or a guy sweating and pressing some buttons. But they use the actual use of meme there. So
the original definition, because like no one knows the original definition of meme. Like they just turned it into a whole different thing to where its original purpose was like completely lost.
Like somebody makes a comic strip. Look at this meme I made. It's like, well, technically, I guess.
I'm like, that's not really a meme. It's, I mean, it's kind of like it irks me really bad when people use words incorrectly. So whenever someone says meme, I'm just like, oh, like that's not really what it means.
That's not what
like,
you mean.
No, look at the definition. An element of a culture or system or of behavior that may be considered to be passed from one individual to another by non-genetic means, especially imitation. That turned into
funny.
This picture is funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, technically it spreads like not genetically, but
in the most basic definition, like every single text and visual media is a meme, but that's the nuance is totally lost.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that's not what they meant. Yeah.
Technically everything is, if you want to put it that way, because it's just something that's passed down, like not genetically, like through your DNA and whatnot. So I'm like, well, this freaking, but oh hell, then freaking that reminds me, the only time I ever heard the word meme in a freaking video in a anime that was Danganronpa, when they said like, this is such a meme, I was like, holy crap, I actually heard someone use that, like
someone said it aloud
outside of like freaking the internet. Like it was so like freaking crazy to me.
And it's always weird when something takes off, but then you play the game or whatever, it's like, that wasn't that big a thing. Like I played through Skyrim and I maybe heard two guards say, I used to be an adventurer like you, and
arrow to the
knee.
Or I played through Deus Ex Human Revolution, no, the first remake one, and I didn't have the dialogue of I never asked for this, even though that was like the big like I never asked for this Adam Jensen thing. It's like that wasn't in the game for me. Why is this? Oh, because it's in the trailer. That's why. So that and then also the other more recent one, like how everybody lost their minds over Lady Dimitrescu.
Oh my god, that's nuts.
Like she's not even like the main villain. Like the game introduces you right away. It's like, here are the 5 villains. She's one of 5. Right. She's not the big one. I mean, she's physically big, but she's not like really not the last boss. Your adventure begins, but super not the last boss. Don't make a big deal. Ooh. And so it's like
crazy.
The game right from the beginning tells you this, but it doesn't matter because the internet does what the internet wants.
Hell, that's marketing, promoting like freaking not even 101. That's like master levels of it. Like they use that. People are making lewd images and videos and freaking voiceovers and everything you could think of, like comics.
They knew what they were doing with 10-foot tall,
But who would have thought? Who would have thought that a gigantically tall woman in a freaking Resident Evil game would have been like that, like marketing, like freaking expertise? Like it's just,
I feel like it's random. I think they just do whatever they want with these things. Like I have a Resident Evil 5 kind of production book, and it talks about all the things they manipulate and stuff like that. Like I remember an early kind of penny arcade comic strip being like oh the face actor for like Sheva Alomar. Like that's a very attractive woman kind of thing. But then I see the real actor, and like they've modified her face so much. It's like, oh, I kind of feel bad for her. Actually, this is really not a real face anymore. It's like the super Photoshop version of like your nose didn't look the way we wanted it, or your hair wasn't quite this. Like, oh, okay, well, that's something. So they're just kind of doing what they want. And the same thing with Lady Dimitrescu. Like they do the usual thing where the body actor and the voice actor is different from each other, and then the face model is different. So there's kind of this hybrid action. Whereas for some of them, like when they're doing stunts and things, like the guy who plays Chris in Resident Evil 5, the body is the same as the face. Then, which is I guess why they have to make it different. For a minor spoiler, Chris shows up in maybe Resident Evil 7, maybe Resident Evil 8, who knows? But he's obviously a different actor. Then again, because they can't modify the same kind of face in the new RE engine and have it look right, I guess.
Why did they change Chris's look so drastically from like between 6 to 7? It's just a whole new motion character.
Yeah, just new guys, new everything. Because it was never a real one person anyway. So
right.
But like same thing.
All those boulder punching steroids made him look different.
Yeah.
The boulder punching, that was something that became a freaking meme.
That was such a huge meme, but I also find that way funnier than I probably should.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Like it's just so B movie schlock thing to do that it was
like
just
an 80s
hilarious.
action film. Like he punched a whole boulder. It's like what?
So strong, so angry.
Yeah,
he's Captain America. The Resident Evil franchise.
Yeah, but that's just kind of the charm of those like basically B movie games. Like you could tell that the writers like don't really know what's going on all the time. Like the actors, like there's a part in Resident Evil 8 where there's like a villager and he's got like, it's a thing where it's like, I'm very mad about what's going on. Drink dramatically with a motion capture prop that definitely doesn't have liquid in it. Right. And I'm so mad about it. And then smash. And it's like, that's such a campy thing to do. And I just love it because it's that. Or in Resident Evil 5, like you can tell that the writers don't really know how English names work. Like when Wesker's like, Chris, like, you mean Redfield, right? Like you know his last name. You don't. He's not your friend. Don't call him Chris. That's ridiculous. Yeah. or the Castellan in Resident Evil 4, like you can kind of tell that the writers like playing with English names, like how do middle names work? Well, Mr. Scott Kennedy. It's like nobody calls anybody their middle name and their last name. What this doesn't. No. But whatever. That's you're just doing your thing. Then
that's funny.
Did you ever play? Speaking of kind of bad translations, did you ever play House of the Dead or House of the Dead 2?
Never played it.
A little bit in the arcade, I think.
Chris.
If the volume was up, you can so much tell that the writer didn't know what they were doing. They were like basically pre-Google translating it, and the voice actors just like had one take. For example, in English, if there's a monster coming, you'd say "stay away," but in Japanese, the word would be like "don't arrive" or "don't come," kind of thing. So there's these civilians in House of the Dead that are like, don't come. And there's these like English voice actors. It's like, what do you even think you're saying? What's even happening here? But that's before anybody was really checking it. But Resident Evil 8 doesn't have an excuse other than like we've done it like this for so long. We just like it like this now.
Oh man. Lyle says, forget the fact that Chris and Shiva are still alive in a volcano without any protective suit. Like, that part right there is enough. I mean,
like video
when
game
I think about that, you can't even get close to the inside of a volcano. No. You'll be passed out and dead. Like, what the hell? Like, they're inside it, not even sweating. They're kind of like...
It's like, we're not touching the lava, so we're fine.
There's lava right there next to me. I'm perfectly fine though. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's hot. Like, what are you talking about?
Thousands of degrees.
This is freaking nuts.
They got short sleeves on and stuff. They're probably
I
fine.
know, like what? Oh man, this is freaking crazy. I find it funny that people RE6 female. I don't know her name. That is a monster. RE6 female. The wait,
Deborah.
I don't remember
I remember.
Helena's sister turns into like this spider.
Yeah. Helena's sister, freaking you fight her like in this freaking weird mountain kind of thing or something like that. Facility, I forgot.
In the catacombs underneath the cathedral. Yeah.
Yeah. And she starts flying around, doesn't she, or something? She gets like wings.
She's like climbing on the.
Oh yeah, okay.
On the walls and stuff. So she's like jumping from like minecart to minecart at different parts.
Yeah, I don't know. Freaking people find anything just to like latch on to, especially in Resident Evil games. I feel like every game had something where they're just like it became like a meme. Like part 1, like, oh, you were almost a Jill sandwich.
Even just like, wait, don't open that door. Like so much of the voice acting was just such a crack up.
Oh my god, like it's so crazy. I love how even older stuff can like become like still relevant now because of the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a game that's 25 years old at this point.
Yeah.
And they're still like cracking up about that.
Yeah.
And in part,
besides all those weird lines, that's like, how can you identify it as any particular person's blood? It doesn't make any sense.
You almost became a Jill sandwich. Like the freaking hell. I can't. It was just ridiculous. And the way
I love bad voice acting so much. It's
like
fewer
Sonic.
greater pleasures in life for me.
No, even Sonic Adventure 1 especially. That was like the voice act. I just can't. Like they didn't even have the. I don't even know. Like Resident Evil and Sonic came to mind as soon as you said bad voice acting. It just those two things right there. Mega Man 8 or Mega Man X8?
Mega Man 8.
Oh, like the Mega Man? I never played 8. Wait.
Oh
wait, no.
That's a good question.
I did play it. I didn't play 9. I mean, but I played 8.
9 is good.
Martha Wiley.
I like
I don't know why Mega Man sounds like a freaking
Paul's bass
5-year-old.
Like,
like a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, bass.
Oh yeah, and then the freaking the robot? What was his name? Duo?
Yes.
I believe his voice acting was wild. I was like, why is everything sounding so like dramatic, even when it's not supposed to, and vice versa? I was like, Sonic Adventure 1's voice acting was cringy masterpiece. That is true. It was freaking cringe, but it's like it's still such a great game, despite that. Like you can't help but love it. It's kind of like I couldn't picture it any other way at this point, you know? Like, damn.
Did you ever play Space Channel 5 for the Dreamcast or the redo of that one?
I've heard of it.
Nah, I never played it.
That's a medium early rhythm game. And it has pretty consistently good voice acting, actually. But Michael Jackson makes a cameo in it.
Oh.
And you can tell that they only had him, for like one take as well. So there's all this like pretty good normal sounding dialogue. And then suddenly Michael Jackson comes in and he can't pronounce the main character's name. And like none of the things he's saying seem to have any context. And it's like, what was the recording booth like in there? Like, what's even happening? It's just really weird.
Oh, man. Bad voice acting in video games. That's like a whole another topic on its own. Like, seriously.
Is it ever? I love it so much.
But it's definitely a lost art because it's just so much easier to do it now.
Yeah, it's gotten better now. Gotten better for like since the PS1 when it was like kind of new. Yeah. Oh man.
Like there's a few games then that had good, like Legacy of Kain had good voice acting, and like Metal
Gear Solid kind of did. Like for it to be one of the first ones, really, it kind of did pretty good.
Metal Gear Solid managed to have proper directing with English actors, but it still sounded like Japanese dialogue where I'm going to say one thing to you, and I'm going to explain this idea. This idea? Yes, this idea. You tell me about this idea? Like, yes, we're going to have to repeat this idea. It's like just they love just repeating the same
Metal
thing.
Gear.
And you hear it in Japanese dialect, but it sounds triple nonsense in English if you realize what's happening.
Yeah. Oh my god, man. I just
my new favorite thing now, because we don't get that kind of thing anymore. My new favorite thing is when there's an American character in a Japanese game or anime even, and they're supposed to be like straight up like fresh off the boat from America, like the English person, the English speaker, and they're like, "Thank you very much." And it's like, really? That's your English guy? Just get an ESL teacher or something. Like, why did this happen?
Oh man. I love when they put the English American. Have you guys seen Steins Gate before?
No.
Like the anime? Do you remember the episode with like the American guy? And he was like speaking jive? I was like, what are they doing? I love when they throw an American character in. I'm like, it's the most cliche, stereotypical stuff like half the time. And I'm like, I wonder if that's how they feel when we throw like a Japanese character into like English-based games. I'm like, this is how it feels? I'm like, that is not how like our community talks like, at all. Like,
yeah,
it's like, oh my god, it's the funniest stuff.
Just a little bit removed.
They start speaking like they're from the 80s. I'm like, what the hell?
There was back when I was in university, there was an anime club, and one of the first shows I saw was Judo Girl Akane, and so here's one of my first exposures to like anime that's not Dragon Ball or Sailor Moon, and the sequence had this giant woman who was the next international combatant, and so of course, where does a giantess come from but Canada? And so she has her Japanese language book, and at first she's like, "Suimasen, doko wa dojo desu ka?" And so, like, "Pardon me, where is the kendo or the judo dojo?" And then the character's like, "Oh, this is a foreigner from overseas. I hear in Canada they're very hearty," and things like that. And then suddenly, this woman who couldn't speak Japanese a second ago was like, "I'll murder all your family and defeat you at judo," and stuff like that. It's like, but you just introduced her as not being able to speak Japanese, but now, okay. And then it flashed to a whole bunch of other competitors from all over the world. There was the woman from Russia who had like a big fur coat and big white hat and like was some sort of princess with like jewels and stuff like that, because everybody in Russia, I guess, is the Tsarina. And then if you're from like South America, I guess you live in a grass hut and etc. and so forth. And that's just the stereotypes that just kind of push them on through.
Oh man.
Now, obviously, American animation did that for a long time, too, but we've kind of gotten a bit better about not doing that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, he was speaking jive. I'm like, that was just, I was like, oh.
Not old.
Yeah. like that's a little like 70s blaxploitation film-ish.
Yeah.
Like,
somebody was probably watching like Dolomite or something, and they're like, okay, let's do this. Dude, I know. This is America.
This is America now, not 4 years ago. It's like, oh, all right, you're a little outdated now. Legacy of Kain series was the first game to show people that you can have serious acting and complicated stories told. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, like for the PlayStation, that game, I never finished it, and I'm really upset about that because I played it as a kid, and it was just. I don't know. As a kid, I think I just got too like creeped out by it. Honestly, I kind of just gave up.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't know. I got like lost and disturbed by like all the freaking vampire, and it was dark and freaking just. I was like, I quit. I want to play something else.
Before that too.
I only played Soul Reaver. Blood Omen. You play as Don't you play as like Kain? Yeah, and it takes place afterward. Yeah, it's weird. They switch you from Kain to playing as like Raziel or whatever.
Well, they do that at, like the whole series because there's Blood Omen, then Soul Reaver, but then there was Blood Omen 2, where you played as Kain again, then Soul Reaver 2, where you're Raziel, and then I think it was Defiance, and I didn't really play that one at all.
Yeah, I know. There's one where you play as like both of them. I think that is Defiance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Defiance. I never played any of them except Legacy of Kain, like Soul Reaver. and it looked good. It just I have to go back one day and I have to like play it through it. It's just, did they ever remaster it or anything anywhere?
I don't believe so. It came out on the Dreamcast of Soul Reaver.
Yeah. I think the Dreamcast was the remaster.
I had the PlayStation version, but I mean, obviously, I don't have a PS1 anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if you can get it on like PS3 store or anything. I've never looked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have it on the PS3, but I freaking sold mine. I'd have to like.
Oh, right.
I'd have to like go play it on like an emulator or something like that, probably really. Or
might be
if
on
I have it on
Steam.
the Vita,
I'm not sure.
Maybe. Yeah. Let me see. PlayStation, Windows, Dreamcast is what it says it's available on. Okay. But yeah, man, that game was crazy. It was pretty freaking good too. Yeah. I never got far in it though, but I kind of would like to. And then they made a sequel, Soul Reaver 2 for the PS2, and they kind of upped everything a little bit.
I have them all. I've lost track of Blood Omen, and I don't even know if I still have Soul Reaver 2, but I did have them at one time. I had Blood Omen 2 on the GameCube. I think I just said that. But...
Hell,
good question.
Legacy of Kain had one of like the best freaking beginning intros to me. Like, oh my god, you just see freaking like was it Raziel freaking doing the intro, and he's just like narrating, I believe, something like that. And then he's like, yes, I freaking, you see his wings come out, and Kain just freaking like rips his freaking wings off and tosses them into some place. I'm like, this is freaking, that was cinematic.
Oh yeah.
We can't have a flight mechanic in the game, so only gliding for you.
Oh, yeah, like had one of the best opening cutscenes for his time. Exactly. That was as a 7, I don't know, what was I, 7, 8 maybe playing it? Like that was just like,
I mean, yeah.
This is crazy. You know, like back then that was, you know, only Metal Gear Solid really had like, I mean, I guess I'd say like really good like cutscenes and cinematography and whatnot. A lot of the other games are kind of like Resident Evil was okay too.
Yeah, but Resident Evil worked with what it had pretty well.
Yeah.
And then it even did things like it had the live action remix of it, which was pretty novel. Which I love FMV. I even got Night Trap recently on the PS4 just because I never played it and I need to play that. And I'll play FMV games that are terrible. Like, don't play The Quiet Man ever. It's one of the worst games I've ever played. But it's so bad it's good. So maybe you do want to play it.
I love so bad it's good.
Like, yeah, so maybe
it's an art form.
Maybe try The Quiet Man. Then it's a game where
Quiet Man. Sorry, yeah.
Quiet Man is a game where you play as a, I guess, deaf mute character, who nobody signs to. I guess he can read lips, but the player can't, and all the dialogue is never relate to the characters, so you're even worse than a deaf mute as the player because you don't know what any of the dialogue is, and it's just actors just saying a bunch of lines, and you play through the entire story and you kind of get a semblance for it, but not really because you can't read lips because you're just you.
Right.
Could
you hypothetically read their lips if you could read lips? Do you know?
You could, because once you beat the game, then it says The Quiet Man unmuted or something, and you can play through with normal audio. Then it's like, the game is not good enough for me to want to play it again. So it's just bizarre. It's just everything about it is weird, and I don't even have a strong memory of it. Like I'm rhyming off this Resident Evil 6 stuff, and I usually have a pretty strong memory for games, but this. I have like a morbid desire to go back and play the voiced version, but yeah. So that's a good example of, when we didn't do good acting or we didn't make strong choices for it. But sorry, I got off track a bit. I was going to say a game that did work well was Parasite Eve. I mentioned that one earlier, and that had really good cinematography and like good kind of gross outs as it showed like the.
I never played that one.
Yeah. Oh man, lovely game. I would love to, because of it was based off of a novel. I don't know how much of a pain it would be to get like the rights to remake it, but I would love to see a remade Parasite Eve.
Oh yeah, that's
even not a PS1 game, huh?
There's a Japanese movie of Parasite Eve even, so it must have been big.
Yeah. In
that land, but here not so much, I guess. But yeah, that PS1 game. And it's a pretty short. RPG as well. Like I I played that over a Christmas break, I think, and so the game takes place between, I think, Christmas and New Year's, and I played it between Christmas and New Year's, and I was like, this is like the same thing. It was a good experience.
Yeah. And then there's like a new game plus you can do also. There's like an optional dungeon that's I don't ever want to do that optional dungeon again. It was just so like visually boring.
It's literally random too, isn't it? As you go through the building,
It's like
was that building supposed to be the World Trade Center?
Chrysler Building.
Chrysler Building, yeah. I wonder how well that aged or not.
I'm not sure.
I just mean in terms of like we don't put things in the World Trade Center kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's crazy. So many PlayStation 1 games, or even PS2, that need to be like remade, rebooted, remastered, or like re-something that they just lost.
A nice PS1 game that was remade, albeit long ago now, it's even old again, it could be remade, is Trapped, aka Kagero's Deception. Did you ever play that one?
Trapped?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So they made a PS4 Deception. Well, it's actually a PS3 game that they remade again, but it's basically there was like nothing like it when it came out on the PS1. There's still really nothing like it. It's a third-person game where your character can't attack at all. It's like in this medieval-ish dungeon, and heroes will appear, and so your devil character can only run away from them. And the triangle, X, circle, and square buttons, or actually no, only 3 buttons, maybe 4, will trigger traps. You can have one on the floor, one on the walls, and one on the ceiling, kind of thing. And so, you might have the knight chase after you, and they step on a spring pad. So you press the spring pad button, and it flings them into the walls, and then you press the spike button, and the spikes come out of the walls and impale them. And then while they're stuck on the walls, then you roll a boulder from somewhere else to crush them then, and that's your 3-hit combo. And the whole game kind of plays out like that, with both stuff that's already in the area, like swinging blades that you have to lure them into, and of course you can't put yourself in the traps by accident, so otherwise you take damage. And like I said, you can't attack, but it's really innovative, but I guess it's maybe too much for some people. Like, where's my punching? Why can't I just push them over myself? So yeah, I'd if you can ever play the PlayStation 1 Deception, aka Trapped, I don't know why it has 2 names, maybe different countries. But yeah, Deception 3 is definitely a thing. There's Deception 4 now. Yeah.
Oh wow! I never heard about that game, but that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin had it, and it was so hard we'd never get that far in it as well. But I remember it being at their house and stuff like that. It's like, we're playing Deception again. Like, it's like kind of creepy, kind of, and also just kind of like the kind of, I don't know, perverseness of being a villain that's destroying heroes as well. There's some appeal to that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Trapped is part of the Deception series?
Yeah,
but I know one of the Deception 4 Blood Ties that came out for the Vita, that was like a game I was looking at one point.
Yeah, Deception 4 is the most recent game. Yeah, Vita, PS3, and then they made a PS4 version of that. That's right, Deception 4 Blood Ties.
That was a Vita game I was looking at like years ago. Like, I was undecided if I was going to get it or not, but freaking I never did get it. But I didn't know that was like part of a freaking like longer running series that went back that far to the PlayStation 1 or the PlayStation 2 and all that. That's pretty crazy. Damn.
I think the PS3 one might have only come out in Japan, actually. Again, I had the disc of it, but I couldn't follow the story. I just knew that, crush guy with a boulder, or bonk him on the head with funny bucket, and then he kind of staggers into the next trap, or, make him sit in an electric chair, and he gets all zapped, and his bum is on fire as he runs in a circle, and then you hit him with the arrow, etc., and so forth.
Wow. That sounds like that's like one of those campy freaking like horror movies or something like that. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of equal like horror, but also kind of like the gross out humor. Like they have like the torture horses and stuff as well. They can like pop out of the floor and stuff like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn.
I wonder if that would be more of an objectionable thing for censors nowadays versus like a Grand Theft Auto, like connect a guy's nipples to a car battery or not. Like, what's okay nowadays?
I don't freaking know. This is crazy with censorship and people complain about everything on the internet, like anything they can find. Just
well, like everyone has like an equal voice now, so like it's just easier for like anyone that's just complaining loudly to be like, I really hate this one thing, even if it's the majority doesn't think it's a big deal.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like, some of the changes they make in games and some of the things they find to complain about, to me, is crazy. Like, what series was it? Let me think.
Are the people who are complaining even playing the games, is my question.
I forgot what series was it? They had like a big fuss because wasn't it Assassin's Creed because there was no female protagonist or something like that yet, and like people were like making it be some kind of big thing for some reason. I think it was Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I think they introduced a woman protagonist into Syndicate. I think because they figured there wasn't.
Yeah, Syndicate where you play as the brother, and you play as the brother and the sister and stuff. Yeah.
Because
but even the spinoff had one, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberations. That was for the Vita. That was like the only Vita Assassin's Creed game you played as. I forgot her name, but she was a black female or down in the south. Yeah, you were Evelyn in that one, and she was a good protagonist. I just forgot her freaking name though, but yeah, Evelyn. But I don't know. These are the things people complain about. I've never looked at a game and said like, well, I mean, there needs to be. It's like, I never understood that part.
I love Final Fantasy, but they really need a female lead in this one. Like, it's just like, I don't care. Just make a compelling story. That's what's going to push it over the edge.
Although people complain the other way around with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, though, was only going to have the woman as the lead, but then they did the thing where you could be the brother as well, which is...
I heard about that, I think.
I've used the woman hero, and then my friend played the male hero. And it's just interesting how the game plays out and things like that. Although, what is interesting, the final armor you get is kind of like an obvious kind of Wonder Woman kind of knockoff type thing. But if you're using the male hero, you get the same armor as well. And it's just like, more buff version, but still got little skirt and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's some equality, I guess.
I don't know. I feel like inclusion is like, it's fine, but why are you complaining if it's not? Like, I don't look for my I don't look for my justice in my video games. I don't need there to be characters. I don't really need a black character, honestly. I really don't care. Like, it's just a video game. Like, that's not equality to me. Like, I don't need a character that's from like freaking New York to be like, I feel included now. It's like, as long as the game is good, I'll play it. This isn't real life. Real life is where we need actual change. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, totally. I don't need to be playing as a Canadian.
Yeah, like this. I need a Canadian main character to really boost my confidence in this video game series. Like, it doesn't. You're supposed to. The video games as a medium is supposed to be like the thing that takes us away from life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like our troubles. If you're reminding me, like the Spider-Man Miles Morales, like, remember there was a whole problem because they had like I think they had like the Black Lives Matter like logo or whatever the hell it was called, like in the game. There was like they used that symbol in there, and people were like, oh my god, like this is so crazy. I'm like, I didn't need that included in my game. I really don't care. Like, make sure that's in real life, make sure that's like a thing, but you know, it doesn't make a difference to me when I'm playing a game. I take myself out of it, and I'm not really a person. I'm not a specific like ethnicity and nationality and gender. It's just me playing that game, that fictional person. That's why sometimes I kind of prefer stuff that's really unrealistic, because there's no chance for them to say
like a Mass Effect.
This is yes, I love Mass Effect because it touches on politics, racism, and everything, but from a sense of like otherworldly beings rather than just humans fighting each other because they like talk different languages and look a little different. And like the Taurians don't like the humans. It's not like this country doesn't like that one. It's like they take it out and they zoom it out and make it more of a macrocosm kind of thing. Like, and it makes us like, you should feel silly when you like look at something like that and you're like, why am I hating another human when there's like Solarians and they're like whole different galaxy? Like, it makes you really look at things differently. That's why I wish more things would have that kind of level of, like
this kind of abstraction, universality.
Like the bigger. It's not like Call of Duty. Every Call of Duty is like, okay, we're off to go kill Germans, or we're going to kill Russians,
right?
Or we're going to kill some Middle Easterns, or zombies. It's like that's all we do. That's not fanning the flames at all. I'm guessing, making more, hatred anywhere. Yeah. Like, can we kill like something that's not like so close to home where people really have like, possible issues with that? You know what I mean? But I mean,
I think that's why it's so great that there are so many different, possibilities with games. And there's just, so much to the medium as well. And you can do that escapism. Now, at the same time, I think there is something to be said for having a specific role to play. Like, on the one hand, in Miles Morales, I think that's in there just because, especially the comic book character, for so many people, they really needed that representation. But then for other games where that's like the theme of the game, and that's what you get into the game for, what you specifically choose this game. Like, I played Life is Strange 2 kind of recently, and that's about these two Hispanic brothers who are from like middle America, and then some mysterious things happen. The little brother develops these kind of telekinetic powers, and then things get pretty bad. And so as me playing this role, so as a child and a person of color, and the characters, there's a part where the storekeeper doesn't trust the kids, and so for me to play this character and have like people like give them the side eye, it's like, oh, I can read about this and I can like empathize with. I'm pretty empathiful. I think I can understand it, but there's one more like little step when I don't feel like oh, now I understand racism now, like that's not a thing. Like, well, I've been discriminated against too because in a video game this happened. It's more like it's more like I'm a few centimeters closer to it, let's say. Like I can it helps me empathize with it when it's like, oh, well, that's the thing. Or when, in real life I can't fight anybody. I couldn't punch somebody or hurt them or anything. But to be a little girl character where it's like, and now you're trapped in this, broom closet or something, and there's no way you can possibly physically get out. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess I can't. I could have manhandled them if I was an adult man. But I can't now, and this is what it feels like to be powerless, or this is what it feels like to not be trusted. So I would be, it'd be sad if I picked an escapism game, and the game was like, there's some stuff happening. It's like, no, I'm not emotionally prepared for this. But on the other hand, I do like that I can pick a game that I can say, oh, well, now I can kind of see this now and kind of get that.
Hell, Detroit Become Human is another good example. Like, I mean, you guys played Detroit?
No.
There was the whole situation with basically like the AI, they're using like, it's like technologically advanced and everybody basically has like freaking robot like servants and doing like all this stuff. But then it's like to a point where some of the robots have like, start to develop like emotions. And whenever that happens, they consider them, what was the word? Basically, like they're defective and they have to be destroyed. And it's just like the whole thing of the game is like, well, we created the robots so we can destroy them. But then it's just like, well, if they have feelings, they're no longer just machines and they have to be given rights. And then it's just like, it's so like deeper, and that's something that I feel like is actually a lot more realistic and closer than like people think, like
this ethical quandary. Yeah,
it's like, oh crap, they're kind of right. Do I have the right to destroy this now that it actually has feelings?
Alive? Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, don't shoot me. It's like, crap. Do I do it now? You know,
Right.
it's one of the bet on. It's freaking. I highly recommend it, especially if you want to really like have like tearjerker moments and like really delve deeper into that kind of stuff. Like, seriously.
It's definitely on the list. Like, I really like things like Blade Runner, so I think it'd be up my alley.
I got it after. I think I got it as a PlayStation Plus game at some point.
Yeah.
I think. Now, if you have it downloaded,
yeah,
definitely got to play it. Because then there's 3 different characters to pick from. I mean, well, you have to play them all, but it jumps from one to the other, and they all have their own different situations. Like the one dude is like basically like a police officer. They're all 3 of them are the androids or whatever, but they have different roles. Like they all have different roles and different androids. Like some of them are servants, like they like clean up and cook, and some of them are like police officers basically. But they're treated as second-class citizens even with their jobs. So it's just kind of like, well, it's like, well, maybe I know how it feels to be like, like a minority, for example. Like I'm getting treated like I'm getting paid less. I'm getting treated like I don't really need to be here. I don't belong. It's like it really makes you freaking think like on a deeper level than just like let me just kill this enemy and move on. That's why I love video gaming. It has freaking A through Z. You can find damn near whatever it is you're looking for, like within reason.
Yeah.
Like whatever subject matter or theme to the game that you really want to think like touch on at that moment.
Even if you don't even realize you want to touch on something, it's like, oh, this made me think.
Yeah, sometimes the game is just so good that you just are compelled, like, oh, well, this is just interesting gameplay wise, but the underlying theme or the overarching theme, I guess, it's like kind of just subconsciously even hitting you sometimes, Yeah,
the Metal Gear games do that in various ways. Revengeance does that as well. Did you play Spec Ops: The Line?
No, but I know the whole deal about it.
I heard about that, and that's another one. I feel like I should play it just because of how I read a lot about it. Seems crazy to me.
Yeah, you have to be like in the mood for it, I think. How about on the other side of that spectrum? Have you played Homefront?
Nah, I don't think so.
So Homefront, I played it specifically because I knew that I'd like emotionally disagree with it. It's this kind of rah-rah super America jingoistic thing where it's like the Koreans have invaded America, and South Koreans are taking over our baseball stadiums and turning them mass graves, and South Koreans will have nukes soon, and South Koreans are going to come for you and your family. So we need to get out there and save America from the South Koreans. Or North Koreans. So it's the one where you see the blindfold on the cover, and it's got the North Korea star on there.
That rings a bell.
And you're going through like small town American neighborhoods with your America gun and just doing America things. It's like they're taking over the supermarket. We got to cover them. Okay, player character, just take out all of them. We've got to save America and baseball. And it's like, am I really doing this? Is this? And then you get to like the NPCs, and it's like, yep, they've brought us all back here. The nondescript foreigners whose identity changes through development, but we've definitely landed on North Koreans now, as super unrealistic as that is. But cloning, they have clones, that's why. And it's like, we're just the salt of the earth people. And it's like, this is just absurd, and it's just this power fantasy, and but like not a nice power fantasy where you like save some hostages. The people became just you again. You have to really be in the mood for it, and you have to be like purposely want to play this game. And it's similar to The Quiet Man, but where I wanted an experience that I wouldn't find correctly like fun or engaging. It's one where I'd like get some feelings from it, and I'd understand that those are the feelings that would happen, and experience like that. I think not everybody can really enjoy games like that, but if you can, or if you do, then try Homefront or even Homefront: The Revolution, and you'll get something out of it, or maybe you'll want to join the American Armed Forces. Who knows?
It sounds like freaking some hardcore propaganda on it. That's crazy.
So it is.
That's I heard about the series. I never played either one. I know there's like 2 of them, I think now.
Yeah, I think there's 2. The first one was like, I think, the bigger one. The second one didn't work very well upon release, so didn't really catch on then. And I guess also like North Korea and invading other countries kind of fell out of the news or became kind of passé, I guess, when we didn't find the weapons of mass destruction or something. So it's like, maybe we shouldn't make those anymore.
Yeah, that's one of those games that you look at it and it's kind of like dated now because it's so, or somewhat. It's like, all right, I guess.
There was one Xbox 360 game literally called Blackwater, based on the real life mercenaries that America hired to go shoot people in the Middle East. And it's like, shouldn't you not admit that you're using mercenaries for one part? Like, why are you romanticizing this? And I think the game just was like discontinued, and it's just not a thing anymore. Also, Kinect game, so obviously nobody liked that either. But it's like, man, that's the only game I like refuse to play. It's like, no, I can't be like a real live Soldier of Fortune analog. Like that just won't do it for me in a current modern day scenario. Like World War II. Okay, it's grandpa stuff, I guess, but not a right in here, right now thing.
It's crazy.
But that's just me.
Politics and video games.
Yeah, pretty heavy.
That's a whole freaking other thing.
Other story, yeah.
But then sometimes we have game industry, and then Louis is having problems with Leanbox, right? And then PlayStation, they're having some issues as well. And then what's NEP to do? And then, that's pretty tough stuff. So, kind of.
I would mention that series. I feel like they covered it with like a lot of humor. They made it like freaking funny, like how to see these corporations basically like fighting each other. I'm like that kind of stuff. I like,
which is already pretty low stakes as well. So. Yeah. Put on some cute pants for that, and then everybody can have a good time.
I'm waiting for a new Hyperdimension game, honestly. That reminds me.
There's the Senran Kagura crossover one, right?
Yeah, but when is that supposed to be out, though? This year, next year? I don't even know. I gotta look up the I gotta search for that, honestly.
Time doesn't mean anything anymore.
I'm gonna find it. I don't even remember what it's supposed to be called, honestly. I've only seen like a Japanese trailer of it.
Yeah, the name might even change when it gets to English land.
That's it, yeah.
Well, that is one of the things that's also like a lost art. Like there aren't very many video game series that change names anymore. Like Yakuza, still Yakuza because the English ones were always called Yakuza. But even Yakuza, English subtitle Like a Dragon, but Like a Dragon is what Ryuga Gotoko means, so they're just kind of doing that. Or Resident Evil 7, Biohazard. Biohazard, what the Japanese title is, so I like that they're kind of like merging those ones together.
Yeah, it's called Biohazard in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's like a punk band in America that already had dibs on the name, I think.
That makes sense. It's like how Dragon Quest was Dragon Warrior at first because... Well, it was like another like game series or like D&D something was already called Dragon Quest, so they couldn't call it that.
Yeah.
Oh, that Senran Kagura game is supposed to be out in August, apparently in Japan. So that means if we get it, yeah.
Oh yeah. That's one of the ones that does not have worldwide releases. So we'll get it like 6 or 8 months later.
We'll get it probably next year. They usually the year or so maybe. But
it's like when the Summer Fun one comes out in like early September, it's like it's not beach weather anymore. I can't empathize with this.
And they're making a remake of the remake, like Hyperdimension Neptunia, like part 1. Like there was Rebirth for the Vita, and now they're doing it for the PS4 or something like that.
I've never played any of those.
They're really funny. Like they really draw me in with their humor because it's hard to take it seriously. Like freaking,
I figured.
Like
I just never got around to it.
Chicks just fighting each other, and the not physical, like the. Yeah, like I guess physical representation of like the actual like video game companies, and I'm just like, all right, that's cool. I can go with that.
Yeah, the concept alone is worth the price of admission.
Freaking wacky, like seriously. Oh man. Isn't there another one that was be coming out though? Like, I thought there was Virtual Stars came out last year. Yeah. Okay. It's a pretty long running series too. It started in like 2010 on the PS3. But it's a turn-based JRPG, like slash like visual novel, because freaking walls of freaking dialogue. But it gives me a laugh, so I don't really mind like reading it like that, really.
Great.
But the gameplay itself is very repetitive. I mean, they reuse the same models, the same enemies, the same attack. But I mean, if you take one
game, yeah. If you're like, I want my chill, slow-paced game, then you get into that one.
Very much so, yes. And there's anime, but it's like pretty short, like 13 episodes, something like that. But it's cool.
Kiji Ifune is a summon in Hyperdimension Neptunia. You're telling me, Vile?
Resident Evil was a good name only for the first game since it took place in a mansion.
An actual residence, yeah. Resident Evil 2 did not take place in a residence.
No.
And
Resident Evil 2 took it from a mansion to like freaking. You was going like freaking to a police station mostly, really. Yeah. Half the game took place in a police station, didn't it? In part 2?
Yep.
You just.
Okay, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I just didn't realize that Hyperdimension Neptunia, that the girls represented game company.
Yeah, freaking Neptunia.
I wish someone explained that to me earlier, because now I'm way more interested. Because that's like
Neptunia,
so
Neptunia
ridiculous.
represents Sega, and then there's Louis, what represents like freaking Nintendo, and then Vert represents Microsoft, and there's Noir, PlayStation. But that's also because the names, like Noir is black, so PlayStation, because their consoles are usually black, and then Vert is like green, so Microsoft and Xbox and whatever and stuff.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
And Neptune is like the successor to the Saturn that never came out.
Yeah, Neptune and Saturn it's pretty cool. And then the Wii, because the Wii is like the console at the time when they first made the game, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, Resident Evil 2 and hell, that reminds me, Resident Evil 2 and 3. I know they take place at the same time. One thing that always tripped me out is you go to the police station in both games, but in part 3 you're there for like 5 minutes. You go in like 2 rooms and then just like leave.
Pretty much, yeah.
And everything's boarded up, and then they never properly explain that like at all. Still, I feel like, at least in the original, it's not the remix. Like that crap is just trippy. Like everything is because they say that part happens. Jill goes there first before Leon and Claire or whatever her name is. But then I'm like, okay, so that's an hour later, like all hell breaks loose. I'm like, they could have explained that a little bit better, game and universe wise, honestly.
I kind of like it when things aren't fully explained. I feel like that's a thing that's more modern now, is where you have to see where everybody went and everybody goes. Like, if things are boarded up and zombies are in the police station later, and not all of them are cop zombies, I'd accept that zombies just came through the barriers and stuff like that.
But that's still super unrealistic. Like fully armed police officers can kill like humans, but like when it comes to like non-armed, like not sentient creatures, they just got overwhelmed. Like I don't know. I know it's supposed to be unrealistic, but
yeah,
that part I was just like, what?
The zombie everythings have to be so specific. Like there has to be so many people who are bitten but not totally consumed to become zombies. So many near misses. We can kind of excuse that this is a world where presumably this is the first bioterror event, period. So it's that thing where you don't want to shoot civilians, so you let them get close, and you're like, okay, I'm going to push you with my riot shield. Or, actually, Raccoon Police Department had like the super elite STARS team for some reason, and then maybe everybody else was just like there was just traffic control. They didn't actually do any of the stuff because STARS just did everything else.
I feel like in real life, though, they would be so much better. Like, they would just mow down, like, everybody and just be like, oh, well, problem solved. All right, we're good. Yeah. We had machine guns, and they shot them all in the head. Like, for that to happen in Resident Evil, I feel like it just had to... Even part 1, like, how the whole thing broke out of the mansion and just crept slowly towards, like, the town. I'm like, so many things had to happen, I feel like. Yeah. Like, wrong.
Well, okay, so it could be like this then. So in the police station, the police are called out. A guy has been biting people and he doesn't look well. So they bring him in and they have him restrained. and they have him in like the questioning room, or they bring him in, and so he goes in and then he thrashes out and he bites one of the police officers, and then they beat him down. They shoot the zombie, but then they're not going to bite the police officer, or they're not going to shoot the police officer, and then he spreads it from there. So I think the Resident Evil 2 was the only game that very briefly did the thing where you go into the office and there's the police chief and he's human for a second and then he dies and he's a zombie there, and you're like, I can't shoot at somebody who is a human, and it's very claustrophobic as well as he comes towards you. But then after that, pretty much everybody else is just kind of cannon fodder zombies. But you can kind of imagine that playing out where it's like, oh, well, I can't shoot you. You're moving.
No, that's true. Because your emotions are going to kick in, that's I can see that.
Yeah, zombie fiction never explores that, or very rarely explores that it looks like my neighbor or something. I can't bear to do it. But that's presumably the reason why, these zombie apocalypses spread. Or maybe we have new knowledge now that people think it's a hoax, and they're like, you can't control me. I'm just going to get bit by the zombies, and you can't biohazard me. I have my own rights. I can do this.
Right.
Then I see a winning team. I know a winning team when I see one. I'm getting the zombies, that kind of thing, and people purposely getting their heads right in there, and so that would probably happen. Based on what we know now of outbreaks and things. So that's the thing too.
Oh yeah, that'll be the new Twitter thing. Like, oh nah.
People be showing off their bite marks on their arms and stuff.
Yeah, I got bit last week and I'm still fine. And then a week later, it's okay.
I'm very pale and losing control of my motor functions, but it's unrelated.
It's nothing to do with this whatsoever. I'm still fine, guys. Don't worry. Then he's just coughing up blood and freaking dying. It's
5G towers. Maybe.
Oh man.
Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. Or maybe because people getting locked out of their houses. Where's the heart key? I can't even know. It's just. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right? Oh yeah. Freaking Vile said, remember Brian Irons, the police chief, scattered all the ammo to make the police have a hard time, and they are not used to zombies. This is their first experience. Also, they used the RPD as a shelter in the beginning. In fact, the citizens that were there turned, attacked other survivors, and the stars were created 2 years before to counter terrorism in the city. But yeah, I forgot. That's how they explained it, right? The police chief was with Umbrella, so work getting paid under the table. So he kind of did stuff to make them react inefficiently, and kind of messed up their response. I forgot that's how they did it.
I'm sure I imagine that's a post facto nation as well, especially with the ammo thing. And then in Resident Evil 2, okay, the police chief scattered the ammo, but then in Resident Evil 4, it's oh yeah, we just keep it in crates all over the town. And in Resident Evil 5, it's we keep it in these ancient urns, of course. Resident Evil 6, it's I keep it in the oven of my house next to the garbage bags. Yeah,
where do you keep your ammo?
Yeah, what if you need to heat it up?
Right.
It's Resident Evil 8. It's clearly my Gothic armoire is going to have shotgun shells. They get around it a bit with the crafting and stuff, but oftentimes it's just straight up ammo. Then they're not even pretending that you're fusing some widgets together to make bullets. That's they're just there's a magnum bullet in my makeup mirror, and that's just the way it is.
Oh man, once again, it's suspension of belief is so important.
Yeah,
because no one in their right mind just keeps ammo. I dig through the trash and I found a whole bunch of bullets. These would have come in handy. What the hell? Oh man. Or what's that game where you destroy? It's the arcade kind of game. You destroy the garbage cans and they have freaking chicken in them and you heal.
Final Fight.
Streets? Is that Streets of Rage? Or
I think Streets of Rage does have food off the ground to power you up, but yeah, Final Fight has the whole Thanksgiving turkey that to give you full health.
It's garbage turkey is freaking healing me. Oh my god.
That's the mean streets of Metro City.
Yeah.
You eat what you get.
Oh man, that's the other side of my video games. Sometimes they're so damn quirky, it's not even funny. Oh man.
But yeah, we accept the abstractions of them, and we just enjoy the video game part.
As long as it's entertaining, like you can run with it. Oh man, I love it.
Yeah, video game logic is great.
It's the best logic. It's the best logic there is. Oh my god. I keep my ammo in my daughter's room next to the teddy bear in the maximum. What? Oh wow, that's crazy, man.
Well, sometimes you have to put the teddy bears in the right order,
Right.
based on the note that you have that says Mr. Honey doesn't like to hang out with Rainbowkins. It's like, okay, well, Mr. Honey and Rainbowkins are
In the right
here.
order, and then the chest opens up, and then there's a key, and then the key opens this door, and this door leads you to that thing, and then there's like a creature that's been sitting there for like months and months that wants to kill you. It's like, what?
And I want that to happen, though. Like, it's ridiculous it is. It's like, yeah, that better happen. Otherwise, I'm going to be upset with my Resident Evil game.
That's the craziest thing. The freaking police station had all these random weird keys. Like, no, is that the one with the heart key and the green key and the blue key and all that stuff? Or was that part one?
Yeah, and all the statues you had, both of them had a similar thing. Well, the club's key and the spade key.
Yeah,
and
club and spade and diamond, I think, or something like that. Oh man, that was freaking nuts. That was part 2, and then hearts because it was based after the card things. Oh man, it's freaking crazy. Resident Evil as a whole, at least the original trilogy is a whole mess with the puzzles, especially the first 2 with the freaking keys and all that crap.
Have you ever played The Evil Within? That's a spiritual successor to
I never played it.
Resident Evil 4. But yeah, I guess if you haven't played those ones, we don't go into that as much. But it has the same kind of logic as well.
It's crazy.
That's the way I like it.
Oh my god. Holy crap, it's been freaking 3 hours already.
Yeah, we've been
Is that pretty good cast?
Powering through this one.
The excuse for the police station was that it used to be a museum. That part I did not ever hear about. That's actually really interesting. That's nuts.
I feel like that's a fact that's probably in one of the novels or something.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't remember ever reading about that in the actual games. That might have been like maybe in the books or something, but still, that's pretty cool. But
yeah, I think I'll have to sign off soon myself.
Yeah. No, that's
I
not
have
a
to
problem.
freaking-
It's been
I gotta eat at some point in my life.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten all day, literally.
I mean,
I'm like,
I got to eat too, but it's I think we had a good chat today. Thanks, Noir, for coming on. Come back anytime.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
freaking great.
Do you do any YouTube stuff? Is there anything you want to plug?
Not in particular. No, I mostly just watch things, so I'm happy to just contribute to society here.
Perfect.
Really, man. Freaking come back again, because this is freaking fun.
For sure.
Oh my god. Time freaking flew, honestly. I didn't know it's been over freaking 3 hours already.
Yeah.
My stomach is telling me, though, that it is. So, yeah.
We'll have some good meals then.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking good night, fellas.
Yeah,
take it easy. Oh, man.
We may as well get wrapped up here anyway. I could use some food myself. And definitely get Noara back on here sometime.
Definitely. I'm afraid to reach out to him again and see like when he's going to be able to be free and all that stuff, Yeah. Freaking. So what do you have coming up next?
Well, I'm going on like a streaming hiatus because like my work schedule is different. I have to work in the morning. So I'm going to be doing Phoenix Wright, but I'm going to be doing like Let's Play style, like half-hour-ish long videos of that whenever I can. So that's what I'm going to be doing probably for about the next month or so.
All right. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So doesn't it suck when work gets in the way of freaking like your already proven routine? You know what I mean?
I hate having to modify my stream schedule, but I mean, you do what you got to do.
I don't blame you, man. I don't freaking blame you. I'm still looking for a freaking job, and when I find one, I know my schedule is gonna go freaking every which way.
Yeah, you just got to work around it. Like for the most part, it's like, hey, morning, or hey, I work evening, so it's just like I finish work and then just pretty much immediately stream, and it's doesn't affect anything. But right now, it's like I could stream earlier in the day, but like I'll just.
Oh, if you let everybody know that's usually there, because it's because of work, so it's not like you're choosing it, and it's only temporary, right? For like a few weeks. Yeah. So you said.
And like realistically, I could probably just use the break anyway from just active streaming, like just doing some Let's Play stuff instead. Just probably a break I need that I wouldn't have otherwise taken. So
Yeah,
I tend to push it a little harder than I probably should.
I don't blame you. For me, I'm still working. I'm still streaming like Mass Effect, basically. Ratchet & Clank is out Thursday. I already pre-ordered it, getting it day one, and I'm going to be streaming it probably as soon as I pick it up. I'm probably going to pause Mass Effect if I'm not done with it by then, because that's, a week from now.
Right on.
And just go straight to Ratchet & Clank, and I'll be streaming that pretty much like on Twitch, like same schedule as usual, but still streaming it. Yeah. And then go back to Mass Effect afterwards. And right now I'm still just working on like regular videos, like on both channels. But right now I'm focused on like, I'm starting a new like brief series focused on giving advice to people who don't know exactly where to begin when it comes to like doing videos or doing live streams, and they're like brand new to it. Like working on that right now. Just the basics, not too advanced or anything like that. But if you need to know what kind of equipment you need and things of that nature, I'm working on that right now. Like giving them a summary of like things that might help like the most, like help them decide if it's something they want to do too, whether it's like a hobby or whether they want to take it seriously. Because a lot of people come to me and they're kind of like, I like your channel. Like, well, how do you, and I'm like, well, let me just compile actual like video or two and just put it out there so that answers everybody's questions at once.
Kind of be like, hey, just check this out.
Check this out. This is my personal recommendations and all that. So hopefully it helps. If it helps anybody, then that's like, that's good to me. But that'll be out on the channel like freaking probably in the next week or two. Been working on it, but this is episode 13 now, guys.
Yep.
Serenial Podcast. If you haven't followed already and subscribe to Mega Harv.
Yeah.
Subscribe to Enigmatic Entertainment, and just be on the news for everything we got coming.
Yeah.
And catch you guys next time. Thanks to everybody that freaking came in live with the questions and whatnot.
Yeah.
We always appreciate it. It gives us someone to go back and forth with, and we freaking love gaming just as much as you guys do, clearly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, see you next Friday.